Chapter 159. Brother Ning, it's good that you're out. Let's go and barge into the ivory tower, Yang Yu said with joy when he saw Ningyu come out. Let's go. I want to see the so-called ivory tower, Ningyu said. Hey, don't forget about me. The Dark Emperor was unhappy and said angrily, Do I have the right to barge into that ivory tower? Yang Yu was stunned when he heard that. He then smiled, stopped joking. How can a dog barge into the ivory tower? Whoosh! Hearing Yang Yu's words, the Dark Emperor immediately attacked and clawed at Yang Yu's chest. Yang Yu did not take the Dark Emperor's attack seriously. He clenched his right fist and casually threw a punch. Chi. However, as soon as the punch came into contact with the Dark Emperor's claw, it shattered. Then the Dark Emperor's claw arrived before his chest like a bolt of lightning. Oh no! The sudden change caused Yang Yu's expression to change slightly. He never thought that the Dark Emperor would actually be so powerful to be able to easily disperse the fist light that he had struck out. In the blink of an eye, the Yuan in Yang Yu's sea of consciousness surged and gathered before his chest. However, just as the Dark Emperor's claw was about to collide with Yang Yu's Yuan, a growl was heard. Emperor of the Dark World, behave yourself! Ningyu took a step forward and stood between the Dark Emperor and Yang Yu. Can't you just talk things out? Why do you have to fight? Whoosh! The Emperor of the Dark World seemed to have expected that Ningyu would interfere. The moment Ningyu stepped out, he suddenly stopped and said indifferently, I don't care. I just want to teach some people a lesson. Don't let them look down on dogs. No, puffed, it should be people looking down on the Emperor. All right, let's go. Don't waste time here. Let's hurry to the ivory tower. Ningyu did not want to waste time here, so he waved his hand and said, Yes, let's go to the ivory tower. Yang Yu didn't want to stay here any longer. He quickly walked away. What kind of freak combination is this? Through the short exchange just now, Yang Yu had already determined the strength of Ningyu and the Dark Emperor. Ningyu was indeed ranked 90th on the innate realm battle board. The speed that he displayed in that instant was far beyond his reach. The fact that the Dark Emperor was able to stop his body in an instant meant that he was not weak either. Behind him, the Dark Emperor asked, Ningyu, have you refined the Dark Gold Spirit Corpse? The Dark Gold Spirit Corpse has been refined, but the high-grade origin crystals on me have also been refined. Ningyu was a little helpless as he told the Dark Emperor about what happened when he refined the Dark Gold Spirit Corpse. It's fine. The more high-grade origin crystals the Dark Gold Spirit Corpse absorbs, the stronger its strength will be. The Dark Emperor consoled. If you run out of high-grade essence crystals, you can earn them. If you lose your life, you will have nothing left. I didn't expect you to be so open-minded, Ningyu said as he quickened his pace to catch up with Yang Yu. As for the Dark Emperor, he rolled his eyes and left midway. The Ivory City was bustling today as it was the opening day of the Ivory Tower. All the martial artists who were ranked in the top 5,000 on the innate realm battle board were qualified to enter the Ivory Tower. If one was lucky enough to make it to the 8th level, he would be able to enter the Sacred Institute of Danmu College unconditionally. The Ivory Tower was located in a huge square in the middle of the Ivory City. It was 10 stories tall and looked majestic. Beside the Ivory Tower, there was a huge round fighting platform. It was the Ivory Stage. At this time, many warriors had already gathered in the square. Among these martial artists, some were going to enter the Ivory Tower, while some were just here to watch the show. After all, not everyone was qualified to enter the Ivory Tower. Cough, cough. On the high platform, Yang Kun coughed and stood up from his chair. He said loudly, Let me get straight to the point. Today is the opening day of the Ivory Tower. Only the top 5,000 martial artists on the innate realm battle board are qualified to enter the Ivory Tower. Don't try to make up the numbers. Those who are not ranked in the top 5,000 on the innate realm battle board will be teleported out even if you enter the Ivory Tower. I hereby announce that the ivory tower is officially open. Buzz, buzz. As Yang Kuin finished his sentence, the heavy stone door on the first floor of the ivory tower opened slowly. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Then a few figures flashed past and entered the ivory tower. Brother Ning, let's go in too. Yang Yu and Ning Yu stood beside the ivory tower. When most of the people had entered, they moved to enter the ivory tower. Why, Yang Yu, are you going to enter the ivory tower today? However, before they moved, a voice rang in their ears. Then, Zhang Hu walked over with a smile. Zhang Hu said to Yang Yu, last time, you stopped at the 5th floor. This time, you should be able to enter the 6th floor, right? Among the martial artists who entered the ivory tower this time, only you barely made it. The others are just a bunch of mobs. They are not worthy of my attention. You. Yang Yu clenched his fists and said angrily, let's wait and see. Shrugging his shoulders, Zhang Hu's figure flashed into the ivory tower. However, when he left, a voice rang in Ning Yu's ears. You are very strong, much stronger than that useless Yang Yu. I am looking forward to fighting with you in the ivory tower. The words that rang in his ears made Ning Yu frown. He was a little shocked. Soul transmission. Zhang, who was indeed a genius of the corpsine sect. He even knew how to use soul transmission. From this, it could be seen that Zhang was not only skilled in martial arts, but he was also highly skilled in alchemy. Swoosh! At this moment, Yang Yu's figure flashed, and he entered the ivory tower. Seeing Yang Yu enter, Ning Yu shook his head and stopped thinking about it. His figure flashed, and he flew into the ivory tower. On the high platform, a middle-aged man smiled and said to Yang Kuin, Hee, City Lord Yang, do you think anyone will be able to reach the 7th floor this time? Patriarch Zhangzhe, your son reached the 6th floor last time. I'm afraid he will be heading for the 7th floor this time, right? Yang Kuin said, the rest of the martial artists can only reach the 6th floor at best. City Lord Yang, my son does not have the ability. I will be satisfied if he can reach the 6th floor. A smile hung on the corner of Zhang Zhe's mouth. He immediately changed the topic and faintly said, what do you think about the life and death fight between the junior city governor and my son? Yang Kuin narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, that is just a joke made by a child. In my opinion, there is no need to take it seriously. The young city lord and my son are not young anymore. We should respect their decision and not interfere. Zhang Zhe raised the corner of his mouth and said, this matter has already spread in Ivory City. When the time comes, why not let them enter the ivory tower and have a duel? There is no need for a life and death battle. After saying that, Zhang Zhe closed his eyes and chose to rest. As for Yang Kuin, his expression became very ugly. He knew that once they entered the ivory tower, it would be a life and death battle. Chapter 160. Ning Yu had no idea what was happening in the square. The moment he stepped into the ivory tower, his vision dimmed. Then the space around him wriggled and countless white light spots appeared. Within these white light spots, Ning Yu could feel the ripples of energy. So this is the first level of the ivory tower. I wonder how I can pass through it. Looking at the increasing number of white light spots, Ning Yu frowned in confusion. Whoosh! However, not long after Ning Yu spoke, the space around him wriggled again and an illusory figure appeared. The first level of the ivory tower collect 1,000 white light spots within 2 hours. After the illusory figure appeared, it tossed a black token to Ning Yu and said, put the white light spots you collect on the token. It will absorb them. Swoosh! Then the illusory figure became even more illusory and disappeared. Looking at the black token in his hand, Ning Yu did not hesitate. His figure flashed as he reached out to grab the white Pucci. However, just as Ning Yu grabbed the speck of white light in his hand, It turned into nothingness with a puff before he could place it on the token. What's going on? The sudden change was obviously out of Ning Yu's expectation, and he was stunned for a moment. Since he could not grab the white light spots with his hands, could it be that he had to use his soul power? Thinking of this, Ning Yu released a wisp of soul power from his body and wrapped it around his wrist. Then he grabbed the white light spots. Swoosh! This time, the white light spots did not disappear under the suppression of the soul power. Seizing the opportunity, Ning Yu placed the white light spots on the token. Instantly, the white light spots were absorbed into the token. Luckily, at this speed, I will be able to collect 1,000 white light spots in no time. Since he had found a way to collect the white light spots, Ning Yu did not waste any more time. He split his soul power into several wisps and carefully collected the white light spots. Buzz! Half an hour later, the black token suddenly vibrated and let out a buzzing sound. Shio! Then the black token broke free from Ning Yu's control and flew into the air. Right at this moment, the surroundings suddenly became bright and everything changed greatly. Ning Yu discovered that in front of him was a bronze stone door. There was a groove on the stone door. Could it be that the key to open the stone door is the black token? Ning Yu muttered as he looked at the shape of the groove. Creak! In the next moment, the black token fell into the groove, and the heavy stone door slowly opened. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu strode in. When Ning Yu entered the second floor of the ivory tower, everyone in the square let out a cry of surprise because the third floor of the ivory tower was already lit up. The third level was lit up, which meant that someone had reached the third level of the ivory tower. Only an hour had passed since he entered the ivory tower. It was truly shocking that he could make it to the third floor. In my opinion, the one who made it to the third floor must be Zhang Hu. Previously, he made it to the sixth floor. The last time the ivory tower opened, Zhang Hu was the fastest to make it to the third floor, but he spent an hour. I didn't expect him to shorten the time by half this time. Don't forget, Yang Yu is not weak either. Maybe the martial artist who made it to the third floor is Yang Yu. Anyway, it's the two of them. There's no one else. The discussions in the square made Zhang Zhe, who was on the high platform, happy. He could conclude that the martial artist who made it to the third floor was Zhang Hu and not Yang Yu. No one knew Zhang Hu's strength better than him. If Zhang Hu gave it his all, there was an 80% chance that he could make it to the top 50 of the innate realm combat list. In the death match 3 days later, if there were no accidents, Yang Yu would definitely die. Thinking of this, Zhang Zhe smiled and said to Yang Kuan, Governor Yang, I think the martial artist who made it to the third floor should be the young city governor, right? Master Zhang, you must be joking. Your son is strong, and he will definitely be the first to make it to the third floor, Yang Kuan said with an ugly expression. Wow. At this moment, the third floor of the ivory tower lit up again. This sudden change caused Zhang Zhe to be slightly stunned, after which he said, Another person has reached the third level. This person should be my son. Although Zhang Zhe said so, Yang Kuan did not think so. He was sure that the first martial artist to make it to the third floor was Zhang Hu. As for who the second one was, he was a little surprised. But soon, his eyes narrowed and he had a guess in his heart. On the third floor of the ivory tower, Ning Yu frowned as he looked at the white shadow that blocked his way. From the white virtual figure's body, he did not discover the slightest trace of origin energy undulations, which was to say that the martial prowess of the white virtual figure in front of him was not considered strong. First of all, congratulations on entering the third floor of the ivory tower in such a short time. The white shadow said, This round should be easy for you. There's no need for an assessment. You can directly enter the fourth floor. Why? Ning Yu did not understand why he could enter the fourth floor without an assessment. Hee, as you can see, I don't sense any yuan power from my body. In other words, this round tests my soul power. With a smile, the white shadow said, My soul power is at the peak of the 3rd grade, while your soul power is at the advanced stage of the 4th grade. It's a few times stronger than mine. If I compete with you in soul power, I will definitely lose. It's meaningless. If your soul power is only at the early stage of the 4th grade, I might compete with you. But now there's no need. As soon as he finished speaking, the white shadow disappeared. Behind him, a flight of stairs appeared, leading to the 4th floor. Ningyu felt helpless. Since there was no need to challenge this round, he did not ask any more questions. Instead, he strode forward and headed to the 4th floor. At the same time, in another space, Zhang Hu stabbed with his sword and destroyed the white shadow in front of him. Keeping his flying sword, Zhang Hu said coldly, "Last time, I used 3 strikes to destroy the white shadow. This time, I destroyed it with 1 strike. Not bad at all." Swoosh! After destroying the white shadow, Zhang Hu did not enter the 4th floor immediately. Instead, he sat down with his legs crossed. After recovering his mental state to its peak, he stood up and walked to the 4th floor. In the space next to him, Yang Yu took out a jade bracelet. He slowly injected his soul power into the jade bracelet. Then, the jade bracelet suddenly exploded with a strong tearing force, directly destroying the white shadow. Luckily, Father gave me this jade bracelet. Otherwise, with my early stage of the 3rd grade, I would have to go through as much trouble as last time. Keeping the jade bracelet, Yang Yu was like Zhang Hu. He was not in a hurry to enter the 4th floor. He took out a few elixirs and swallowed them. Then he slowly activated his skill and began to refine them. Chapter 161 F***CK. Standing at the entrance to the 4th floor of the ivory tower, Ningyu could not help but curse. Moreover, he hurriedly released the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness, forming a Yuan Qi barrier around his body. This was because on the 4th floor he saw a shocking scene. The entire 4th floor was occupied by a type of demonic beast, the Cloud Leopard. The Cloud Leopard was a 4th-order demonic beast. Its strength was comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the initial stage of the true martial realm. It had a violent temperament, and they were very territorial. As long as an outsider intruded into their territory, there would definitely be a bloodbath. 50 cloud leopards. Isn't this a little too difficult? Ningyu's expression turned ugly as he thought to himself that this was a scam. Even a martial artist ranked in the top 50 on the innate realm battle list would most likely be defeated by 50 cloud leopards at the same time. Roar! Without waiting for Ningyu to think further, one of the cloud leopards stomped on the ground and instantly appeared in front of him. With a furious roar, the cloud leopard raised its tail and ruthlessly swept it at Zhou Donghuang. Damn it! Cursing, Ningyu gathered essence on his wrist and punched out. Bang! The cloud leopard did not expect a Xiantian advanced stage martial artist to dare to fight it head-on. It was stunned for a moment. However, in the instant that it was stunned, Ningyu's fist had already arrived in front of it, and it landed right on its body. A dull thud sounded out. The cloud leopard was knocked back several feet and fell heavily on the ground. Isn't this defense a little too terrifying? Looking at the cloud leopard crawling up from the ground once again, Ningyu was speechless. Although he did not use 100% of his strength in that punch, he had still used 50% of it. Originally, he thought that even though a punch with 50% of his strength would not be able to kill the cloud leopard, it would be enough to severely injure it. Now, it seemed like he had thought too much. 50 cloud leopards. Let's see what my limit is today. With a cold expression, Ningyu took out the soul-breaking sword. Vital Qi surged out from one of the cyclones and poured into the breaking soul sword. Then, Ningyu took a step forward and slashed out with the breaking soul sword. Walala! Several sharp sword lights slashed out, interweaving into a net of sword lights in front of Ningyu, and then exploding out in unison. Roar! Faced with such a sharp sword light, the cloud leopard did not retreat. Instead, it let out a loud roar and charged at Ningyu. Chi chi chi. The instant the sword light came into contact with the cloud-soaring leopards, more than 10 of them were forced back. As for the other 30 or so cloud-soaring leopards, they furiously charged towards Ningyu. Heaven Fiend sword wave. Ningyu narrowed his eyes and swung the absolute soul sword again. Immediately, a shocking sword wave appeared and blasted at the cloud leopard at the front. Uft! The cloud-soaring leopard was indeed a demonic beast with an astonishing defense. The Heaven Fiend sword wave only left a bloody mark on its body. It was not seriously injured. Humph! Teisho Kenpo. With a cold snort, Ningyu stabbed out with his sword. He used the third form of the 9 Pure Ones sword technique, the powerful Teisho Kenpo. Roar! As soon as the Teisho Kenpo slashed out, the cloud-soaring leopards around him roared angrily. It was as if they had encountered an extremely dangerous situation and they actually retreated. Although the cloud-soaring leopards loved to fight, they were not stupid. In the face of absolute power, they would not throw their lives away. They are retreating? This turn of events was not what Ningyu had expected. However, in his opinion, he had to kill all the cloud-soaring leopards here in order to pass the 4th level. Hence, even though the cloud-soaring leopards were retreating, Ningyu continued to control the soul-severing sword and slashed out several Teisho Kenpo. In an instant, 2 of the 6 energy whirlpools in his consciousness had been completely depleted. You have already passed the 4th level. Why do you still want to kill us? Seeing that the Teisho Kenpo was about to hit its body, one of the cloud-soaring leopards at the front shouted, "As long as you don't kill us, we will immediately open the entrance to the 5th level and let you enter it successfully." I have passed the 4th level. Ningyu was slightly stunned. Then he asked doubtfully, "Don't I have to kill you to pass the 4th level?" "As long as you can withstand our attacks for 3 minutes, you will pass the 4th level," the cloud-soaring leopard leader muttered. What a freak. In the past, all the cultivators who entered the 4th level would hide in their turtle shells and let us attack them for 3 minutes. But you, on the other hand, immediately attacked us. Hearing the cloud-soaring leopard leader's muttering, Ningyu rolled his eyes. He had the urge to curse. So it turned out that passing the 4th level was so easy. He had thought that he would have to kill all the cloud-soaring leopards. "Tell me what the 5th level is," Ningyu asked as he rolled his eyes. "I can't tell you. You just have to try it once, and you will know next time." The cloud-soaring leopard leader clearly didn't want to say much. Instead, it roared at the cloud-soaring leopards behind it. Soon after, the cloud-soaring leopards unwillingly opened the stone door behind them. Swoosh! Ning, you didn't intend to enter the 5th level. Instead, he flicked his wrist, and the soul-severing sword appeared in his hand. Now you have 2 choices. 1. Tell me what the later levels are. 2. Die. As the word die was uttered, Ningyu waved the soul-severing sword. Instantly, a shocking sword light appeared in the air, as if it was about to attack. All right. I will tell you what the 5th level is. Seeing the illusory sword light, the cloud-soaring leopard leader hurriedly said, "The 5th level is very simple. It tests the density of one's origin energy. As long as your origin energy can light up to 5 stars, you can enter the 6th level. With your strength, passing the 5th level will be a piece of cake." At this point, the leader of the cloud-soaring leopards paused for a moment before continuing. However, the 6th floor is not that easy to pass. This is because the 6th floor tests a person's talent. Unless your talent reaches the requirements of the test, it is impossible to enter the 7th floor. The 7th level tests one's strongest battle prowess. As for the rest, I don't know. Frowning slightly, Ningyu waved his hand and said, "You guys pass. I will now enter the 5th level." As he spoke, Ningyu took a step forward and entered the 5th level of the ivory tower. Seeing that Ningyu had left, The cloud-soaring leopards felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Their taut nerves relaxed a little as they thought to themselves that they had finally sent off this fiend. Creak! Not long after Ningyu left, the stone door to the 4th level opened once again. Following this, Zhang Hu walked in. Seeing Zhang Hu, the cloud-soaring leopards were initially stunned. However, when they felt the ripples of origin energy from Zhang Hu's body, they all roared angrily and charged at Zhang Hu. What's going on? The sudden change caused Zhang Hu to be slightly dumbfounded. The last time he entered the 4th level, there was only one cloud-soaring leopard that had attacked him. Why were there 50 cloud-soaring leopards attacking him at the same time now? However, after a short moment of confusion, Zhang Hu's wrist shook and a flying sword appeared. He slashed out a few sword lights that landed on the cloud-soaring leopards at the very front. Chapter 162. What's going on today? Seeing that their companion had been killed, the rest of the cloud-soaring leopards stopped their attacks. The leader of the cloud-soaring leopards was extremely frustrated. It could feel that Zhang Hu's strength was not much weaker than Ningyu's. You've passed the 4th level. The leader of the cloud-soaring leopards was no fool. It knew that Zhang Hu had the ability to kill them, so it quickly said, I'll open the stone door now and let you enter the 5th level. As it spoke, the leader of the cloud-soaring leopards took a step back and personally opened the stone door to the 5th level. Swoosh! Although the leader of the cloud-soaring leopards' actions confused Zhang Hu, he was not an indecisive person. It was always a good thing that he could reduce his energy consumption here. Zhang Hu did not stay here for long. His figure flashed, and he entered the 5th level. Just as Zhang Hu left, Yan Yu flew in. You've also passed the 4th level. You can now enter the 5th level. Seeing Yan Yu, the leader of the cloud-soaring leopards, was stunned for a moment. Then it opened the stone door to the 5th level. Moreover, the cloud-soaring leopards lined up on both sides, leaving a path for Yan Yu. What's going on? The strange scene before him caused Yan Yu to be dumbfounded. His brain even short-circuited for a moment. Could it be that the leader of the cloud-soaring leopards had taken the wrong medicine? Or had it lost its mind? The last time he was on the 4th level, Yan Yu had only lasted 3 minutes after expending a tremendous amount of effort. Originally, he was prepared for a long battle. Who would have thought that such a scene would occur? After all, Yan Yu had challenged the ivory tower once. He did not hesitate for too long and carefully walked forward. A minute later, Yan Yu arrived at the entrance to the 5th level. With a leap, he entered the 5th level. Whoosh! After Yan Yu entered the 5th level, the entire square was in an uproar. Everyone was discussing among themselves. How did 3 martial artists make it to the 5th level in less than 3 minutes? Among the martial artists who made it to the 5th level, one is Zhang Hu, another is Yan Yu. Who's the last one? I don't know. I've never heard of any genius challenging the ivory tower. A martial artist ranked 500th on the innate realm ranking will definitely not make it to the 5th level. Numerous discussions entered Zhang Zai's ears, causing his face to turn a little gloomy. He had investigated and found out that among the top 1,000 martial artists on the innate realm rankings, only 3 came to challenge the ivory tower. They were Zhang Hu, ranked 100th on the innate realm rankings, and Yan Yu, ranked 101st. As for the other martial artist, Xiao Ju, ranked 500 on the innate realm battle board. There was naturally no need to talk about the first 2. Making it to the 5th level was also understandable. However, with Xiao Ju's strength, it was practically impossible for him to make it to the 5th level. City Lord Yang, do you know who this cultivator is? Zhang Zai turned around and asked with a frown. How would I know? All the warriors in the top 5,000 of the innate realm list are allowed to enter the ivory tower. Maybe he is a hidden expert. Shrugging his shoulders, Yang Kuan said indifferently, It doesn't seem to have much to do with you as to how many levels others have reached, right? Why are you so nervous? Humph. Of course it doesn't matter. With a cold snort, Zhang Ze said in a deep voice, I'm just curious. The reason why Zhang Ze was a little nervous was because he was afraid that the martial artist who made it to the 5th floor was from the city, Lord Manor, and was a pawn of Yang Qin. After all, as long as one could make it to the 5th floor of the Ivory Tower, he would be able to meet other martial artists. Zhang Ze was worried that Yang Yu would team up with another martial artist to attack Zhang Hu. Swoosh! At the same time, on the 5th floor of the Ivory Tower, Ningyu was shocked to see Zhang Hu and Yang Yu arrive. He had always thought that the Ivory Tower was a separate challenge. He did not expect to meet them again on the 5th floor. You are not bad. You dare to enter the 5th floor before me. Zhang Hu's face was slightly solemn as he said in a deep voice, but sometimes entering the 5th floor first doesn't mean that you are the strongest. Shrugging his shoulders, Ningyu said indifferently, I never said that I am the strongest. Then, Ningyu walked forward to a giant crystal ball and placed his palm on it. Traces of Yuan force flowed through his palm into the crystal ball. Swoosh! However, just as Ningyu's palm touched the crystal ball, Zhang Hu's face turned cold. In a flash, he appeared next to Ningyu and lifted his leg to kick at Ningyu's arm. Seeing this, Ningyu quickly retracted his palm, grabbed Zhang Hu's leg and flung him away. Smack! Landing firmly on the ground. Zhang Hu's lips curled up. I told you, I am looking forward to fighting you in the Ivory Tower. Not interested. After the attack, Ningyu took another step forward and placed his palm on the crystal ball. However, Zhang Hu obviously did not want to let him have his way. With quick steps, he dashed towards him once again. Swoosh! Dodging Zhang Hu's attack, Ningyu said coldly, What are you trying to do? This is the Ivory Tower. I have no time to fight you. That is not up to you. Smiling, Zhang Hu said, Do you know why we can meet on the 5th floor of the Ivory Tower? Because this is the real ivory fighting platform. As he finished speaking, Zhang Hu forced a drop of blood to drip on the crystal ball. Then he quickly made a hand sign and shouted, Ivory fighting platform, activate! Crack, 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 crack. Following that, for cracking sounds were heard. Then, for beams of light shot up to the sky and surrounded Ningyu and the rest. What? This is the ivory fighting platform? Could the legend be true? Looking at the huge beams of light around him, Yang Yu's expression changed. He said coldly, Zhang Hu, how do you know how to activate the ivory fighting platform? In the past, Yang Yu had heard from his father that the ivory fighting platform was most likely the real ivory fighting platform. However, the method to activate the ivory fighting platform had been lost for thousands of years. How did Zhang Hu know how to activate the ivory fighting platform? How do I know how to activate the ivory fighting platform? Since you're all going to die, there's no harm in me telling you. As he spoke, Zhang Hu's face gradually distorted. In the end, he looked like a completely different person. Moreover, Zhang Hu's body emitted a powerful aura, indicating that he had reached the peak of the Xiantian realm. It seems that I was right. You are really from the corpse sect. Ningyu said in a deep voice, Corpse-in sect. Hearing Ningyu's words, Yang Yu's expression changed. He quickly moved closer to Ningyu. You are the first person to be so calm after knowing my identity. Zhang Hu said with a faint smile, In order to reward you, I will kill you first. I want to ask, do the people outside not know that we are fighting here? Ningyu asked. Only Xiantian realm warriors can enter the Ivory Tower. Don't think that someone will come in and save you. Zhang, whose lips curled into a sinister smile as he said, Furthermore, even if we fight to the death here, no one outside will know. Chapter 163. Since you've said so, I'm relieved, Ningyu said indifferently after Zhang Hu finished speaking. You're relieved? What are you relieved about? Hearing Ningyu's words, Zhang, who was stunned for a moment, then he asked doubtfully, "You're relieved that I'm going to kill you?" Zhang, who, don't be too arrogant. Ningyu is ranked 90th on the innate realm battle board. Today, if we join forces, it's hard to tell who will win. At this moment, Yang Yu took a step forward and stood beside Ningyu. Ningyu, why does this name sound so familiar? Hearing this, Zhang Hu frowned. Then, as if remembering something, he said, "Oh, right, you were the one who made the left guardian suffer in Danlong Valley, right?" As he spoke, Zhang Hu looked around and said, "Where's that heaven-devouring hound? If it's not by your side, you're definitely not my opponent." Heaven-devouring hound. That puppy is a heaven-devouring hound. Beside him, Yang Yu was shocked. He had always thought that the Dark Emperor was a puppy. He didn't expect it to be a heaven-devouring hound. "Hee, Zhang Hu, I can deal with you alone." With a smile, Ningyu rose from the ground. Yuan Qi appeared on his palm, and he slapped at Zhang Hu. "I've killed the top 50 martial artists on the innate realm ranking list. Not to mention you're only ranked 90th. Seeing Ningyu charging at him, Zhang Hu's lips curled into a smile. Then he clenched his right fist and clashed with Ningyu's palm. Bang! When the fist and palm collided, a muffled sound was heard. Then Ningyu felt a piercing pain in his palm and quickly retreated. "Zhang Hu, you're really strong." After the exchange, Ningyu and Zhang Hu both stopped and did not continue to attack. Through a hasty exchange of blows, Ningyu had already roughly determined Zhang Hu's true strength, the peak of the late stage of the true martial realm. In other words, with Zhang Hu's current battle prowess, even if he were to face a martial artist at the peak of the late stage of the true martial realm, he would still be able to contend with and even kill him. "You're not weak either." At this moment, the look of contempt on Zhang Hu's face was completely swept away, replaced by a solemn expression. "If not for the fact that I urgently need to replenish my energy and soul force, perhaps I would still play with you, but now—" Speaking till here, Zhang Hu paused for a moment, and then his whole body shook. At this moment, an aura not weaker than the peak of the late stage of the true martial realm completely burst out. "I'm sorry, but you can only be a stepping stone for me." The instant his voice fell, all the essence in Zhang Hu's body gathered on his wrist. Then, with an extremely berserk essence wind, his fist ruthlessly smashed towards Ningyu's neck. The powerful wind, brought about by the punch, even caused the entire 5th floor of the ivory tower to shake. Zhang Hu, all the people of the corpse sect, should die. Just when the essence in Ningyu's sea of consciousness was surging and he was about to resist, Yang Yu took a step forward, suddenly setting off a powerful fluctuation on the ground. Immediately afterward, Zhang Hu took out a small jade bracelet from his bosom and instantly poured all the soul force in his body into the jade bracelet. "Go!" Accompanied by a low shout from Yang Yu's mouth, an overbearing tearing force suddenly burst out from the jade bracelet, and with an extremely astonishing speed, it blasted towards Zhang Hu's chest. Damn it! Facing the huge tearing force from the jade bracelet, even with Zhang Hu's powerful strength, at this moment, he could not help but be moved. After secretly cursing, he immediately turned his body, withdrew his fist, and collided with the overbearing tearing force from the jade bracelet. "Humph! You actually dare to use your fist to resist the tearing force. Even a martial artist at the peak of the middle stage of the true martial realm would not dare to." "What?" Seeing Zhang Hu being so arrogant, Yang Yu was a little excited, as if he could already see Zhang Hu's miserable state. However, this excitement did not last for long, as it was shattered by Zhang Hu's strong performance. Swoosh! After the fist blasted the tearing force, Zhang Hu's body turned into a shadow, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared next to Yang Yu. Under Yang Yu's incredulous face, the iron-like fist hit his chest. The huge force caused Yang Yu to retreat to the edge of the 5th floor, until he spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. Only then did the force on his chest dissipate. "Why are you so strong?" Having no time to check on the injury on his chest, Yang Yu slightly opened his mouth and exclaimed, "The power of your attack just now is already close to the peak of the late stage of the true martial realm. As I said, I have killed martial artists in the top 50 of the innate realm. How much difference do you think there is between you and the martial artists in the top 50 of the innate realm?" Zhang Hu laughed. Top 50, top 50. Yang Yu was a little dumbfounded for a moment. Originally, he thought that the gap between him and Zhang Hu would not be too big, and he even wanted to use his trump card to fight with Zhang Hu. Now it seemed that the difference between naivety and reality was only a single thought. Pucci. Thinking of this, Yang Yu once again spat out a mouthful of blood, closed his eyes, and fainted. Now that the fly has been dealt with, let me see your real strength. Ignoring Yang Yu, Zhang Hu said in a deep voice, "I hope you will not disappoint me." Hua. Without saying a word, Ning Yu's soul moved, and the phantom armor appeared. Desolate earth palm. Pushing the phantom armor's speed to the extreme, Ning Yu formed a hand seal with his wrist, and a touch of soul force wrapped around his palm. With a low shout, a huge earth character appeared in the air and blasted toward Zhang Hu. Soul attack skill. Zhang Hu's eyes narrowed. He did not expect Ning Yu to also know soul attack skill, and was stunned for a moment. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Today, I will show you what a real soul attack skill is. With an evil smile, Zhang Hu waved his wrist quickly, and in the blink of an eye, a huge palm print appeared on top of his head. Then, the huge palm print suddenly shot out and collided with the earth character in the air. Kacha! At the moment when the two palm prints collided, a cracking sound could be heard. Hearing this cracking sound, Ning Yu's expression changed slightly, because this cracking sound was the sound of the desolate earth palm being destroyed. Netherworld Samsara palm, third style, dark fiend. At this crucial moment, Ning Yu's palm grabbed the air, and instantly a solid palm print appeared and collided with Zhang Hu's palm print. Kacha! The same cracking sound could be heard, but this time it was produced by Zhang Hu's palm print. In other words, Zhang Hu's soul attack palm print was at a disadvantage in the exchange with Dark Fiend, and was destroyed. Swoosh! 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 After the successful attack, Ning Yu's expression turned cold, and he continuously sent out 4 solid palm prints, and together with the first palm print, they surrounded Zhang Hu from 5 directions. Ning Yu, do you think this is all I can do? With a cold shout, Zhang Hu took a few steps back, and then took out a white flying sword. Buzz! Yuan Qi from his knowledge, flowed into the white flying sword, and instantly the flying sword let out a buzzing sound. A middle-grade heaven-rank flying sword. Seeing the white flying sword in Zhang Hu's hand, Ning Yu's eyes narrowed, and a shocked expression appeared on his face. Chapter 164. Worthy of being a genius of the corpse sect. You actually have a mid-grade heaven-tier flying sword at the peak of the Xiantian realm. It seems that your position in the corpse sect is not low. Originally, Ning Yu thought that Zhang Hu was just an ordinary genius of the corpse sect. Now it seemed that he was wrong, very wrong. Zhang Hu's position in the corpse sect was definitely not low. It was even higher than the ordinary hall masters. I am from the ghost palace of the corpse sect. Zhang, who was obviously satisfied with Ning Yu's reaction, but his hands did not stop. When the white flying sword's Yuan Qi was almost full, he stabbed out 5 shocking sword lights in a row. Qi, 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 Qi. The 5 shocking sword lights split into 5 different directions and collided with Ning Yu's ghostly fiend palm. 5 consecutive Qi Qi sounds rang out on the 5th floor of the ivory tower. Without a doubt, Ning Yu's ghostly fiend palm was completely destroyed by the 5 sword lights. The power of a mid-grade heaven-tier flying sword is indeed powerful. With a serious expression, Ningyu flicked his wrist and took out the absolute soul sword. I didn't expect you to also have a heaven-grade magic treasure. Looking at the absolute soul sword in Ningyu's hand, Zhang, who was slightly startled, and immediately said, "But your heaven-grade magic treasure seems to be only a low-grade heaven tier." "Humph. A low-grade heaven tier magic treasure is enough to deal with you." With a cold snort, Ningyu injected Yuan Qi from his sea of consciousness into the absolute soul sword. Teisho Kenpo. A low roar sounded, and a terrifying sword wave attacked from the absolute soul sword without any warning. It strangely appeared in front of Zhang, who fiercely attacked his neck. Boneless sword light. Facing such a fierce sword wave, Zhang, who did not dare to be careless, and quickly waved the white flying sword in his hand. The next moment, a faintly discernible sword light appeared and locked onto Teisho Kenpo. The two collided on the 5th floor of the ivory tower. Boom! The collision of the two shocking sword lights caused even the 5th floor of the ivory tower to slightly shake. Crash! This slight tremor was noticed by some sharp-eyed people in the square. What's going on? The 5th floor of the ivory tower seems to have shaken. Are you seeing things? How can an ivory tower shake? You must be seeing things. That's impossible. I've cultivated a secret technique, so I'm very sensitive to even the slightest tremors. Could it be that someone is fighting inside the ivory tower? Whoosh! On the high platform of the square, Zhang Zhe looked at the slightly shaking 5th floor of the ivory tower and stood up from his chair. His eyes were fixed on the 5th floor of the ivory tower, and there was a look of astonishment in his eyes. City Lord Yang, have you ever encountered such a situation before? Taking a deep breath, Zhang Zhe slowly sat on the chair and said in a deep voice. Shaking his head, Yang Kuin said no. Ever since I became the city lord of Ivory City, I have never encountered such a situation. Is it because the ivory tower has stood for too long and its time has come? In fact, Yang Kuin's shock wasn't any weaker than Zhang Zhe's. He had heard of the ivory battle platform and knew that the 5th floor of the ivory tower was the legendary ivory battle platform. However, a legend was a legend after all. For so many years, no one had ever opened the ivory battle platform. Even the imperial family had sent several Xiantian realm warriors, but none of them had opened the ivory battle platform and ended in failure. City Lord Yang, have you ever heard of the ivory battle platform? Staring at Yang Kuin's eyes, Zhang Zhe said, "It is said that the 5th floor of the ivory tower is the ivory battle platform. Once it is opened, someone will definitely die." Zhang Zhe, this is just a rumor. Don't believe it, Yang Kuin said with a serious face. Humph. Don't think that I don't know that among the 3 warriors on the 5th floor of the ivory tower, besides Zhang Hu and Yang Yu, the other one must be from the city, Lord Mansion. Zhang Zhe snorted coldly and said, "If anything happens to Zhang Hu, your city Lord Mansion, and I will be irreconcilable." Zhang Zhe was very depressed, very depressed. Yesterday, he had discussed with Zhang Hu that they would wait for Yang Yu on the 5th floor of the ivory tower and then kill him. He had studied it many times. Only those who died on the 5th floor of the ivory tower were truly dead, not faked death. Although it was a little strange, Zhang Zhe attributed it to the fact that the 5th floor of the ivory tower was the real ivory battle platform. He did not find it strange. But now, the 5th floor of the ivory tower was shaking, which meant that the legendary ivory battle platform was likely to be opened. With Zhang Hu's strength, he did not need to open the ivory battle platform to kill Yang Yu. Now it seemed that there was a problem with the 3rd person, a big problem. Zhang Zhe, I will also say this. If you is killed, I will not let you off. Yang Kuin was also a hot-tempered person. Besides, he was also puzzled about this matter. Why did Zhang Zhe say that it was related to him? Let's wait and see. Clenching his fists, Zhang Zhe suppressed his urge to attack and said coldly. Zhang Zhe knew that he and Yang Kuin were evenly matched. If they fought here, no one would gain the upper hand. Instead, they would be laughed at by others. Moreover, Although he was worried, he always thought that Zhang who could kill Yang Yu, and even the expert invited by Yang Kun. Swish! At the same time, at the gate of Ivory City, a martial artist in white was standing there. Looking at the crystal ball in his hand, the martial artist in white murmured, "It seems that their method of hiding their aura is superb." Even the aura-tracking magic treasure could not detect their aura. This is the 10th city. I hope I will not be disappointed. I can find them here. After saying that, the martial artist in white flashed and disappeared mysteriously. There seems to be someone. Did you notice? After the martial artist in white disappeared, a martial artist at the early stage of Inborn Realm frowned and asked, "Someone, are you blind? Why didn't I see him?" A short martial artist next to the martial artist said, "Am I blind? It doesn't make sense." The martial artist at the early stage of Inborn Realm scratched his head and said, "Let's go, or we will miss the ivory tower." The short martial artist urged, "Go, go, go. Buzz." After the two martial artists disappeared, the martial artist in white appeared again. "Ivory tower." The white-clothed martial artist muttered softly. Immediately his body flashed, and he rushed into Ivory City in an instant. He charged toward the ivory tower. Boom! On the 5th floor of the ivory tower, Ningyu and Zhang, who separated as soon as they touched each other, both of them were floating in the air, holding the white flying sword in his hand. Zhang, whose primordial chi burst out of his body, revealing a powerful aura. Opposite him, Ningyu was wearing the phantom armor and holding the soul-breaking sword. On the blade of the sword, traces of purple flames were constantly jumping. "You really surprised me. Not only do you have a lower-grade Heaven Stage flying sword, but you even have an Earth Stage magic treasure that can burst out the speed of the peak of the middle stage of real martial realm." Zhang, who raised a corner of his mouth and said gloomily, "Moreover, you have the luck to control a kind of flame. The wind, thunder, fire!" Chapter 165. The people of the Corpse sect are indeed eccentric. Every one of them wants to refine others into corpse puppets. Ning Yu's face was expressionless as he said, "Since you want to see the corpse so much, fine, I'll fulfill your wish." With that, Ning Yu's soul force moved, and a dark golden corpse that was taller than a person flew out from the storage ring. Dark gold spirit corpse. The moment he saw the corpse, Zhang, whose expression changed greatly, and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. As a peerless genius of the Corpse Sect's Ghost Talent Hall, Zhang, who knew about the dark gold spirit corpse and its strength. Even the weakest dark gold spirit corpse had the battle strength of the late stage of the true martial realm. If Zhang, whose guess was correct, the dark gold spirit corpse in front of him was at least at the peak of the true martial realm. "Ningyu, why do you have the dark gold spirit corpse of the Corpse sect? Are you also a member of the Corpse sect?" Zhang, who frowned and said in a deep voice, "In the Corpse sect, only those with high status were qualified to have the dark gold spirit corpse." As for why Ningyu had the dark gold spirit corpse, Zhang, who was very puzzled. "Noisy!" With a low roar, Ningyu gave the dark gold spirit corpse an order to kill Zhang, who, Ming. Bye. After receiving Ningyu's order, the dark gold spirit corpse let out a powerful voice. It immediately leaped high and charged toward Zhang Hu. Not good. A semi-intelligent, dark gold spirit corpse. Its strength is at least at the half-step origin core realm. Seeing the dark gold spirit corpse speak human language, Zhang, whose face turned completely gloomy. If the dark gold spirit corpse in front of him could only display the battle strength of the peak of the true martial realm, then there was nothing for him to be afraid of. After all, the dark gold spirit corpse was only a corpse and was slightly weaker than a true peak, true martial realm martial artist. Moreover, he still had a trump card that he hadn't used yet. He believed that once he used it, defeating the dark gold spirit corpse would only be a matter of time. However, The strength of a semi-intelligent dark gold spirit corpse was comparable to a half-step origin core realm martial artist. Even though he was very confident that he was a genius of the Ghost Talent Hall, facing a half-step origin core realm martial artist, he definitely wouldn't have the chance to escape. Run. At this moment, there was only one thought in Zhang Hu's mind, and that was to escape. He wasn't an indecisive person. The instant the dark gold spirit corpse charged out, his figure flashed as he charged towards the 4th floor of the ivory tower. Bang! However, he had clearly forgotten that he was currently on the ivory battle platform. The surrounding Yuan Qi light waves had forcefully bounced him back. Once the ivory battle platform opened, there would definitely be deaths. Hee, Zhang Hu, you are digging your own grave. The corners of his mouth curled up. This time it was Ningyu who laughed. Ningyu, even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Zhang, whose expression became extremely gloomy. He stomped on the ground, and his body turned into an afterimage as he charged straight at Yang Yu. At this moment, Zhang, who made up his mind to capture Yang Yu and threaten Ningyu. Die, however, Zhang, who had clearly underestimated the dark gold spirit corpse's reaction speed. Just as he moved, the dark gold spirit corpse had already appeared in front of him in a flash as its huge palm fiercely smashed towards his head. The dark gold spirit corpse's palm contained a powerful energy fluctuation. Not to mention Zhang, who, even a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm, would be heavily injured if they were hit by it. Not good. Zhang, whose pupils rapidly shrank. He could no longer care about attacking Yang Yu as he hastily retreated. Bang! Although Zhang, who had retreated at the first moment, a cold light suddenly shot out from the dark gold spirit corpse's eyes and accurately struck Zhang Hu's chest. The powerful energy contained in the cold light had nearly pierced through Zhang Hu's chest. Puchi! A fishy sweetness came from his throat, causing Zhang Hu to spit out a mouthful of blood as his face turned deathly pale. Netherworld Samsara Palm, 4th Palm, Dark Tyrant. At this moment, Ningyu's eyes emitted a bright light as he rose from the ground and arrived before Zhang, who in an instant, gathering his soul power on his wrist, he ruthlessly chopped towards Zhang Hu's head. Looking at the palm that was continuously expanding in his eyes, Zhang Hu revealed an expression of despair. He only cared about blocking the dark gold spirit corpse's next attack, but he did not expect Ningyu to already be in front of him. Furthermore, Ningyu had executed an even more powerful soul attack. Soul power, get out of here. Although he was already in a hopeless situation, Zhang, who did not plan to give up, he released all his soul power and formed a soul net, hoping that it could block Ningyu's netherworld Samsara Palm. Puchi! Dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. The power of the netherworld Samsara Palm's 4th palm, Dark Tyrant, was not something that Zhang Hu's grade 4 soul power could block. The instant his soul power came into contact with the palm, it was blasted apart. The trembling that came from the depths of Zhang, whose soul caused despair to appear in his eyes. Swoosh! Ningyu held the soul-breaking sword in his hand and arrived in front of Zhang, who in the blink of an eye, he placed the sword on the latter's neck. Looking at the soul-breaking sword on his neck, Zhang, who quickly begged, Ningyu, let me go. As long as you let me go, I can be your slave and listen to your orders for the rest of my life. You want to be my slave now? It's too late. After saying that, Ningyu withdrew his sword and directly chopped Zhang Hu's neck. At this moment, the exceptional genius of the Corpse Sex Ghost Talent Hall, Zhang Hu, died a miserable death. Ding! After Zhang Hu died, his body fell backward. The black iron ball that he was tightly holding also fell to the ground. Ningyu picked up the black iron ball on the ground. His eyes slightly narrowed as he said in a deep voice, "This should be the corpse-ean ball of the corpse sect. Luckily, I didn't hesitate and killed Zhang with one strike. Otherwise, if he had detonated the corpse-ean ball, the consequences would have been unimaginable." In his previous life, Ningyu had some understanding of the corpse een ball of the corpse sect. The power of the corpse een ball was enormous. Once it silently detonated, even a late-stage true realm martial artist would die on the spot. Now I'm lucky. After storing the corpse een ball and the dark gold spirit corpse into his storage ring, Ningyu started searching Zhang Hu's body. A moment later, a black token appeared in his hand. On the lower left side of the token, there was a ghost character. Next to the ghost character was a small 12 character. Could it be that Zhang, who is ranked 12th in the Corpse Sect's Ghost Talent Hall? The competition in the Ghost Talent Hall was also very fierce. Every year, there would be a ranking competition. During the ranking competition, killing was allowed. It might be useful if I keep it. He casually threw the black token into his storage ring and held Zhang Hu's boneless sword in his hand. Although it is a mid-grade heaven rank flying sword, it is still more convenient for me to use the soul-breaking sword. After waving the boneless sword a few times, Ningyu shrugged and threw it into his storage ring. Comparatively speaking, he still preferred to use the soul-breaking sword. After all, the soul-breaking sword was a devouring flying sword, while the boneless sword was only an ordinary mid-grade heaven rank flying sword. Rumble. Just at this moment, a rumbling sound was heard, and the surrounding origin chi instantly dissipated. Chapter 166. When the ivory battle platform opens, someone will definitely die. Feeling the disappearance of the ivory battle platform, Ningyu murmured, "Now that Zhang Hu is dead, it's no wonder the ivory battle platform disappeared. Zhang Hu's body is here. If Yang Yu sees it, it will be troublesome." Seeing Zhang Hu's body on the ground, Ningyu was worried for a while. Yang Yu would definitely wake up later. Once he saw that he had killed Zhang Hu, he would most likely tell his father, Yang Kuan. Zhang, who was a member of the Corpse Sect. If this matter reached the ears of the experts of the Corpse Sect, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, it was not realistic to kill Yang Yu. After all, this was Ivory City. Killing Zhang, who was already troublesome enough. If he killed Yang Yu, he could imagine that he would not be able to leave Ivory City. Moreover, Yang Yu had no grievances with him, so there was no need for him to kill Yang Yu. Right. Suddenly, Ning Yu's face lit up. He quickly walked to Yang Yu's side and searched his body. A moment later, a small dagger appeared in Ning Yu's hand. A middle-grade earth dagger? Looking at the dagger in his hand, Ning Yu was slightly stunned. He immediately said, "Forget it, just accept it. Being killed by a middle-grade earth dagger is not an injustice to you." He took the dagger and made a cut on Zhang Hu's body. Then, Ningyu put the dagger in Yang Yu's hand and carried him to Zhang Hu's side. After doing all this, Ningyu pretended to fall on the ground. His breath was a little weak. Ouch! About a quarter of an hour later, Yang Yu opened his eyes. What's going on? Feeling the pain coming from his head, Yang Yu raised his wrist and wanted to rub his head. However, just as he raised his hand, he saw the dagger in his hand. When did I put this dagger? No. Zhang Hu. Yang Yu slightly frowned. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Zhang Hu lying in front of him. Without much time to think, he jumped up from the ground and looked at Zhang Hu with vigilance. He shouted, "Zhang Hu, I didn't expect you to be from the Corpse sect. Today either you die or I die." As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Yu tensed up and stared at Zhang Hu. However, he soon realized that something was wrong with Zhang Hu. Zhang Hu was no longer breathing, and he could even vaguely see traces of blood on his neck. Zhang Hu was killed. Yang Yu looked at Zhang Hu and then at the dagger in his hand. He was confused. Right, Ningyu. It must be Ningyu who killed him. Thinking of this, Yang Yu quickly looked for Ningyu. However, when he saw that Ningyu was lying on the other side, his heart was slightly shaken. Could it be that he was really the one who killed Zhang Hu? But this was too nonsensical. F***CK. At this moment, Ningyu rubbed his head and opened his eyes. Looking at the dagger in Yang Yu's hand and the bloodstain on Zhang Hu's neck, Ning Yu couldn't help but curse. He said in disbelief, "Brother Yang, you killed Zhang Hu from the Incorp sect?" "Younger brother Ning, do you know what's going on?" Yang Yu raised the dagger in his hand and asked, "I felt that I was hit by Zhang Hu's attack. Why was Zhang Hu already dead when I woke up?" "You ask me? Who am I supposed to ask?" Ning Yu rolled his eyes at Yang Yu and said, "After you fainted, I was also defeated by Zhang Hu in one move. After that, I don't know. Looking at the dagger in your hand and the blood stain on Zhang Hu's neck, isn't it obvious that you killed Zhang Hu?" Yang Yu murmured, "Zhang Hu was killed by me, but I don't know." Don't worry about it. Anyway, Zhang Hu is from the Incorp sect. It doesn't matter if you killed him." Waving his hand, Ning Yu said, "But the Zhang family doesn't know that Zhang Hu is from the Incorp sect, so this matter is a bit troublesome." "Yes, the Zhang family will definitely seize this matter and launch an attack on the city lord's mansion." At this time, Yang Yu no longer cared about who killed Zhang Hu. Instead, he was worried about the safety of the city lord's mansion. After all, the Zhang family in Ivory City was a branch of the Zhang family in the capital. Once they launched an attack on the city lord's mansion, the Zhang family would definitely not sit idly by. Moreover, with the relationship between the Zhang family and the imperial family would most likely not come forward to help the city lord's mansion. Instead, they would let the city lord's mansion be annexed by the Zhang family. Ning Yu said, "There is only one way." Yang Yu hurriedly asked, "What way?" With a cold expression, Ning Yu said in a deep voice, "Since you have already killed Zhang Hu, you might as well go all the way and destroy his body." "You mean destroy the body and destroy the evidence?" Yang Yu said in surprise. "That's right." Nodding his head, Ning Yu said, "At this time, you must show the boldness of the young city lord. Whether you want to leave a handle for the Zhang family and watch them annex the city lord's mansion, or whether you want to save the city lord's mansion from danger, it's all up to you." Hearing Ning Yu's words, Yang Yu fell into deep thought. A moment later, Yang Yu took out a bag of white powder, clenched his teeth, and sprinkled it on Zhang Hu's body. Chi-chi. When the white powder came into contact with Zhang Hu's body, it made a sizzling sound. Then, in the blink of an eye, Zhang Hu's body turned into nothingness. Corpse-dissolving powder. Ning Yu's eyes narrowed. He knew that the white powder Yang Yu took out was a corpse-dissolving powder made from several kinds of medicinal herbs. It could turn a corpse into powder in a short period of time. After Zhang Hu's body disappeared, Ning Yu came to the crystal ball and placed his palm on it. "Okay, it has been delayed for so long. It's time to pass this stage." Hiss! Just as Ning Yu's palm touched the crystal ball, traces of Yuan Qi flowed into the crystal ball through his palm. Not long after, a shining star lit up on the crystal ball. After a while, the second star lit up. Then the third, the fourth. It was only when the fifth star lit up that Ning Yu retracted his palm. Creak! The moment Ning Yu retracted his palm, the stone door leading to the 6th floor suddenly opened. "Brother Yang, since the stone door is open, why don't we enter the 6th floor together?" Ning Yu asked when he saw the stone door open. Shaking his head, Yang Yu said, "Only those who light up 5 stars can enter the 6th floor. If a martial artist who hasn't lit up a star tries to force his way into the 6th layer, then a cold light will attack him and blast him out. Brother Yang, with your strength, it is certain that you will light up 5 stars." Ning Yu was not in a hurry to enter the 6th floor. Instead, he said, "I will wait for Brother Yang. When the time comes, we will enter the 6th floor together. At least we can look after each other." Swoosh! Yang Yu did not say anything. His figure flashed, and he came to the side of the crystal ball. Taking a deep breath, he placed his palm on the crystal ball. Buzz! As traces of essence entered the crystal ball, very soon a star lit up. After a while, the second star lit up. 10 minutes later, the third star lit up. Half an hour later, the fourth star lit up. Chapter 167. What's going on? Could it be that Yang Yu doesn't have enough essence in his sea of consciousness? From Ning Yu's point of view, although Yang Yu was only in the late stage of the Xiantian realm, the essence in his body was vigorous enough to light up 5 stars. Why was it so strenuous? Just now, when he lit up 5 stars, he didn't consume much essence. He didn't even use up all the essence in one cyclone. Should I help him? Ning Yu furrowed his brows, and an idea popped up in his mind. He wanted to help Yang Yu. Let's wait and see. If he really can't light up the 5th star, I'll help him. Temporarily suppressing the urge to help Yang Yu, Ning Yu decided to wait and see before deciding whether to help Yang Yu or not. Compared to Ning Yu, Yang Yu was much more shocked. It could be said that he was extremely shocked. Damn it! Why does it need so much essence this time? Cursing in his heart, Yang Yu crazily poured the essence in his body into the crystal ball. But unfortunately, the 5th star was still not lit up. In fact, Yang Yu was also very helpless. Last time he failed here, so this time he was very well prepared. The essence in his sea of consciousness was extremely huge, enough to catch up with a true realm martial artist. However, he didn't know why, when he poured all the essence in his body into the crystal ball, he only lit up 4 stars. The 5th star still didn't show any signs of lighting up. Just now, the essence that Ning Yu poured into the crystal ball hasn't even reached the early stage of the true martial realm. Why can he light up 5 stars, but I can't? Yang Yu was very depressed. Originally, he was full of confidence to break through to the 6th floor, and even wanted to try the 7th floor. But now, it seemed that everything was in vain. Is it because of the opening of the ivory battle platform? Seeing Yang Yu struggling so much, Ning Yu was finally moved, because he found that the essence that Yang Yu poured into the crystal ball was no less than the amount he poured into it. But on second thought, Ning Yu felt that the possibility was relatively small. After all, he didn't pour in much essence. Puchi! Suddenly, Yang Yu's complexion changed. His palm suddenly bounced off the crystal ball, and a sweet smell came from his throat. A mouthful of red blood sprayed onto the crystal ball. Chi! The moment the bright red blood landed on the crystal ball, a sizzling sound was heard. Immediately after, the 4 stars that had just been lit were all extinguished. Creak! At the same time, the stone door leading to the 6th floor slowly closed up. F***CK. The change in the stone door caused Ning Yu's expression to change. He could not help but curse. His eyes widened and his mouth opened so slightly that an egg could be stuffed inside. It's over this time. The stone door to the 6th floor is closed. Yang Yu sat on the ground and gasped for breath. He murmured, "Brother Ning, I'm sorry that I've implicated you." "Brother Yang, do you know what's going on?" Ning Yu asked with a frown. Taking a deep breath, Yang Yu said, "If I'm not wrong, it should be time. Every time the stone door opens, there is a time limit. If you don't enter within the time limit, then the stone door will close. If you want to enter, you need to light up another 5 stars. If that's the case, then I'll go and light them up again." Taking a step forward, Ning Yu placed his palm on the crystal ball again. Then, threads of yuan qi flowed into the crystal ball through his palm. Buzz! Not long after, the 1st star was lit up. After another 15 minutes, the 2nd star was also lit up. Although the stars were lit up one by one, the pressure on Ning Yu increased. This time, the amount of yuan qi needed to light up 2 stars was more than 3 times that of the previous time. In other words, if he were to light up all 5 stars, he would need to use up at least 3 cyclones worth of yuan qi. When he was fighting the cloud leopard on the 4th floor, Ning Yu had used up all the yuan qi in 2 cyclones. When he was fighting Zhang, who on the 5th floor, he had used up another cyclone's worth of yuan qi. At this moment, The Yuan Qi in Ningyu's sea of consciousness was only enough for 3 cyclones. Let's do it. I don't believe that I can't light up all 5 stars today. Although there were only 3 cyclones worth of Yuan Qi left, Ningyu still wanted to give it a try. Then the Yuan Qi in the cyclones gushed out crazily and drilled into the crystal ball. Whoosh! The violent Yuan Qi danced on Ningyu's palm, and the air seemed to be affected as it spread out in all directions. The intensity of this Yuan Qi, feeling the strong fluctuation of Yuan Qi around Ningyu, Yangyu was extremely shocked. His eyes revealed an aghast expression, and he even stuttered. I'm afraid he has already reached the middle stage of the real martial realm. When the Yuan Qi in the 3 cyclones gathered together, it was comparable to the Yuan Qi in the sea of consciousness of a martial artist in the middle stage of the real martial realm. It seems that father was right. With Ning Yu's true strength, he should be able to enter the top 50 of the innate combat list. Seeing Ningyu like this, Yang Yu's suspicions grew. It seems that there is indeed something fishy about Zhang Hu's death. If I'm not wrong, Zhang Hu should have been killed by Ningyu. Although Yang Yu thought so, he did not dare to say it in front of Ningyu, because he was afraid that Ningyu would kill him. After all, Zhang Hu was playing the role of the Zhang family's young master. If Zhang Ze knew that Ningyu had killed Zhang Hu, it would be a disaster for Ningyu. Ka-ka! Just as Yang Yu's thoughts were running wild, a ka-ka sound was heard. Then the 5th star on the crystal ball was completely lit up at this moment. Whoosh! What shocked Yang Yu even more was that the 6th star was actually lit up. Creak! Creak! The next moment, a rhythmic sound came from the stone door leading to the 6th floor, and it opened bit by bit. Brother Yang, since there is a problem with the crystal ball, let's enter the 6th floor together. Focusing his eyes, Ningyu's phantom armor appeared around his body, and he rose from the ground. Before Yang Yu could react, he grabbed his shoulder and flew to the 6th floor. Rumble! As soon as Ningyu and Yang Yu entered the 6th floor, the stone door closed with a loud bang. Phew! On the 6th floor of the ivory tower, Ningyu turned around to look at the stone door that had closed instantly. He let out a long sigh of relief, thinking that it was a close call. If not for the phantom armor's super speed, the heavy stone door would have pressed down on him and Yang Yu. Whoosh! When Ningyu and Yang Yu stepped into the 6th floor of the ivory tower, there was an uproar in the square. Many martial artists looked at the 6th floor of the ivory tower in shock, and their eyes were filled with disbelief, because just now the 6th floor of the ivory tower had lit up twice in a row. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? In an instant, 2 martial artists entered the 6th floor. You're not seeing things. The 6th floor of the ivory tower did light up twice, and it was lit up in a short period of time. Could it be that Zhang Hu and Yang Yu, the 2 geniuses, entered the 6th floor together? Chapter 168. Bam! On the high platform, Zhang Ze slammed his palm on the chair he was sitting on, his face extremely gloomy. 2 martial artists had already entered the 6th floor, which was completely out of his expectations. Based on his guess, there was only 1 martial artist who had entered the 6th floor, and that was Zhang Hu. Yang Yu did not even have the slightest chance of entering the 6th floor, because Zhang Hu would have killed Yang Yu on the 5th floor of the ivory tower. Now that 2 martial artists had entered the 6th floor, he had a bad feeling about this. Wait a little longer. There should be someone else who can enter the 6th floor. Clenching his fists, Zhang Ze stared at the ivory tower, not moving an inch. The martial artists who entered the 6th floor, could it be Zhang Hu and Ningyu? Beside Zhang Ze, Yang Kuan frowned and mumbled, I know you are strength. He is too weak compared to Zhang Hu and Ningyu. If there are 2 martial artists who entered the 6th floor, it must be Zhang Hu and Ningyu. With Ningyu around, Zhang Hu would not dare to do anything to you. Or at least you. Our safety is guaranteed. Taking a deep breath, Yang Kuan said in a low voice, "If you are as safe, I will definitely thank Ningyu when he comes out." Yang Kuan knew that Ningyu's strength was enough to enter the top 50 of the innate realm ranking. If Zhang, who wanted to kill Yangyu with Ningyu around, it would be extremely difficult. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. Hua! Zhang Zhe suddenly stood up from his chair, his eyes revealing a frightening look. Releasing the aura of a peak middle-stage true martial realm martial artist, he said to Yang Kuan fiercely, "Is this your doing? Why are there only 2 people who entered the 6th floor?" Humph! Yang Kuan snorted and released his aura as well, and said coldly, "Zhang Zhe, you old fool! I did not enter the ivory tower. How would I know what happened inside? Besides, isn't it good that 2 martial artists entered the 6th floor? Zhang Huan, you are... Pooh!" Hearing Yang Kuan's words, Zhang Zhe spat out a mouthful of saliva and said in a deep voice, "Don't think that I don't know. Among the 3 martial artists on the 5th floor of the ivory tower, aside from Hu and Zhang Yu, the other one was definitely arranged by you. Speak, what is that martial artist's rank on the innate ranked list?" "You are being unreasonable. I have no idea what you are talking about." With a cold expression, Yang Kuan reprimanded, "Causing trouble here. What a disgrace. Yang Kuan, it seems like the matter between us will come to an end today." Ignoring Yang Kuan's scolding, Zhang Zhe slowly sat on the chair, placed his hands behind his back, and silently formed a hand seal. Xiu! Zhang Zhe's hand seal fell, and a martial artist behind him quietly left the square, heading towards the Zhang family. Yang Kuan narrowed his eyes and whispered a few words to an early-stage, true martial realm martial artist beside him. He then sat on a chair and closed his eyes to rest. Although the 2 of them did not start a conflict, some sharp-eyed martial artists could tell that there would be a bloodbath in Ivory City soon. The conflict on the square was just a small interlude. Meanwhile, on the 6th floor of the ivory tower, looking at the round altar in front of him, Ningyu frowned in confusion. It had been an hour since he and Yangyu entered the 6th floor of the ivory tower, but they still had not figured out how to pass this floor. On the 4th floor of the ivory tower, Ningyu had forced out the information that this floor was a test of one's talent. As long as one's talent met the requirements, one would be able to enter the 7th floor. However, Ningyu had no idea how to test his talent. There was not even a hint. Then, Ningyu shifted his gaze to Yangyu. "Don't look at me." Yangyu shrugged and said, "I have never been to the 6th floor, so I don't know what to do on this floor." Yang, you had only made it to the 5th floor last time, so he knew nothing about the test on the 6th floor. "We can't keep waiting here, can we?" Ningyu moved his feet and walked toward the altar. Rumble. However, as soon as Ningyu moved, a rumbling sound came from the altar. Then, a white shadow flew out of the altar and floated in the air. Swoosh! As soon as the white shadow appeared, Ningyu's eyes narrowed and he quickly stepped back. With a grave expression, Ningyu said in a deep voice, "Why is it you again?" The white shadow on the altar was none other than the white shadow that Ningyu had seen on the 3rd floor of the ivory tower. "Hee, little boy, we meet again." With a smile, the white shadow said, "I didn't expect you to come to the 6th floor so quickly. I'm really surprised. I'll cut to the chase. This floor is very simple. As long as your talent meets the requirements, you can enter the 7th floor." As the white shadow spoke, he shook his wrist, and 2 pieces of jade flew out of the altar. Swoosh! Swoosh! With a casual toss, the pieces of jade flew toward Ningyu and Yangyu, respectively. Each of you can force a drop of your blood essence onto the jade. As long as you can break it, you will pass the test. The white shadow saw the confusion in Ningyu and Yangyu's eyes and explained, "This jade is carved from a 10,000-year-old cold jade. A small formation was carved in it with a strong soul power. As long as the talent in your blood is high enough, the small formation will be broken. By then, the jade will naturally break and you'll be able to enter the 7th floor. Isn't this a test of talent? Why is it a test of blood talent? Ningyu asked with a frown. Hee. Talent is divided into acquired talent and innate talent. The talent in your blood is innate talent. The white shadow smiled and said, only when your innate talent meets the requirements of the test can you enter the 7th floor. If you want a test for acquired talent, find a way to get to the 10th floor. As soon as he finished speaking, the white shadow's figure flashed and disappeared into the altar. After the white shadow disappeared, Yang Yu looked at the jade in his hand and said to Ningyu, should I drip my blood essence on it? Actually, Yang Yu was a little worried. After all, dripping his blood essence on an unknown jade might cause unnecessary trouble. Drip! With a cold expression, Ningyu shouted in a deep voice, since we've come to the ivory tower, we shouldn't suspect anything. I can feel that the white shadow is very powerful. If he wants to kill us, it'll be as easy as blowing off dust. In the next moment, Ningyu forced a drop of blood essence and dripped it onto the jade. Buzz, buzz! As soon as Ningyu's blood essence dripped onto the jade let out a buzzing sound. Then with a crack it broke. Seeing Ningyu's action, Yang Yu also dripped a drop of blood essence on the jade. However, when his blood essence dripped onto the jade, there was no reaction from the jade. Swoosh! 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 Chapter 169. Gone? Where did Ningyu go? The sudden change caused Yang Yu to turn pale with fright. The shock in his eyes could be seen clearly, and he even revealed a terrified expression. He had never encountered such a strange thing before. The 4 beams of light had taken Ningyu away. Could it be? Ning-Yu has entered the 7th level. Suddenly, Yang Yu's eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. However, on second thought, Ning-Yu's blood essence had caused the jade block to shatter. In other words, Ning-Yu's innate talent was very high and had met the requirements of the assessment. The white shadow had said that as long as one's talent reached the requirements of the assessment, one could enter the 7th level. Now it seemed that Ning-Yu must have entered the 7th level. Yang Yu was a little depressed at the thought. After all, he and Ning-Yu had entered the 6th level together. Now that Ning-Yu had successfully entered the 7th level, he had to stop here. Forget it. Since I can't enter the 7th level, I'll just cultivate here. The concentration of primordial qi in the ivory tower was several levels higher than in the outside world. Cultivating here would yield twice the results with half the effort. Since the ivory tower did not send Yang Yu out, he did not think too much about it. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and began cultivating. Whoosh! The light from the 7th level of the ivory tower caused a huge commotion in the square. Many martial artists looked at the ivory tower in shock. The shock on their faces did not fade away for a long time. Someone actually made it to the 7th level of the ivory tower. This is unbelievable. Yeah, to be able to make it to the 7th level, he must be a peerless genius. In my opinion, the one who made it to the 7th level must be Zhang Hu. After all, his strength is obvious to all. Now I'm looking forward to seeing if he can make it to the 8th level. The 8th level. As long as he can make it to the 8th level, he can enter the Sacred Institute of Danwu College unconditionally. Let's wait and see. At the edge of the square, a man in white frowned as he looked at the ivory tower with a puzzled expression. The aura tracking treasure sensed a familiar aura here. Why did it disappear? Ever since he entered Ivory City, the white-robed man's aura tracking magic treasure had sensed a faint aura. Following this faint aura, he found this square. Moreover, according to the guidance of the aura tracking magic treasure, the weak aura completely disappeared at the entrance of the ivory tower. Looks like the person I'm looking for has entered the ivory tower. The corner of the man in white's lips curled up. He decided to wait here quietly. After all, with his cultivation level, There was no way he could enter the ivory tower. Whoosh! Suddenly, the white-robed man's expression changed, and he could not help but look into the distance. 2 half-step primal core realm martial artists. From the air, the white-clothed man sensed 2 slightly powerful auras undulations. These auras undulations indicated that their owners were half-step Yuan dance stage practitioners. I didn't think that there would be 2 half-step origin core realm martial artists here. Ivory City is indeed one of the top cities in the Great Xia Kingdom. Taking a deep breath, the man in white ignored the situation around him. Instead, he locked his aura on the exit of the ivory tower, hoping to find the person he was looking for. This is the 7th floor of the ivory tower. In a slightly dark room, Ningyu looked left and right and muttered, "Why do I feel like I am in a sealed secret room?" Kiki, it has been a long time since someone came to the 7th floor of the ivory tower. Just as Ningyu was feeling suspicious, a young lady wearing a light blue outfit appeared in midair. She floated in midair and said, "I hope you will not disappoint me." Late stage Xiantian realm? Looking at the lady in blue in midair, Ningyu could not help but be shocked. He then said, "You are the examiner for this round? As long as I can defeat you, I will be able to pass this round and enter the 8th floor?" Humph! Such arrogance. Whether or not you can enter the 8th floor, you will have to defeat me first. With a cold snort, the lady in blue moved swiftly and appeared in front of Ningyu in a blink of an eye. Then, the lady in blue used her slender palm to ruthlessly chop at Ningyu's neck. What a hot temper! Just one word and you will start a fight. Ningyu did not take the lady in blue seriously. After all, there were not many warriors in the late stage of the Khanate realm who could defeat him. However, just as Ningyu was about to gather the Yuan Qi on his wrist and attack the lady in blue, his face changed drastically. This was because the Yuan Qi in the 6 cyclones in his sea of consciousness had been exhausted. At this moment, there was not a single bit of Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness. Damn it! Cursing! Ningyu moved his soul force and controlled the wind, thunder, and fire to rush out of the cyclones and attack the lady in blue's palm. Puff! The wind, thunder, and fire collided with the lady in blue's palm, and a loud sound was heard. Then, Ningyu saw a shocking scene. He saw the lady in blue turn her wrist and actually grabbed the wind, thunder, and fire in her hand. Not bad. Wind, thunder, and fire. It seems that you are an alchemist, and your soul force is not weak. Throwing away the wind, thunder, and fire, the lady in blue said lightly, "Don't think that you can look down on me because I am in the late stage of the Khanate realm. To tell you the truth, this body is just a phantom that I left behind. Show me your true strength, or I will beat you out of the ivory tower." The lady in blue rushed out again and launched a powerful attack at Ningyu. "I am really F** King Dog." Seeing the lady in blue attack, Ningyu quickly took out the phantom armor and retreated. In fact, Ningyu also wanted to show his true strength, but he had no way at this moment. The Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness was exhausted, and the wind, thunder, and fire were not a match for the lady in blue. How could he show his true strength? Moreover, when he tried to cast a soul attack, he was surprised to find that his soul force seemed to be restricted. He could not cast any soul attack. His Yuan Qi was exhausted, and his soul force could not leave his body. Therefore, Ningyu only had one choice, and that was to run while wearing the phantom armor. Fortunately, the phantom armor had been completely refined by Ningyu, and his soul force could enter the phantom armor. Otherwise, with Ningyu's current state, sooner or later, he would be beaten out of the ivory tower by the lady in blue. No, I have to think of a way. While running, Ningyu secretly thought of a countermeasure. "Brat, you only know how to run." The lady in blue was very angry. Because the cultivation of her phantom body was only at the late stage of the Khanate realm, its speed could only reach the middle stage of the true martial realm. Compared to the speed of Ningyu's peak middle stage, true martial realm, it was a bit worse, causing her to be unable to catch up with Ningyu. Not running? Do you want me to stop and let you hit me in vain? Pursing his lips, Ningyu controlled the phantom armor and continued to run. Because his soul force had reached the late stage of grade 4, the lady in blue could not catch up with him in a short time. Chapter 170. I'm so angry, I'm so angry. Hearing Ningyu's words, the blue-robed woman was very angry. It could be said that she was extremely angry. Originally, she thought that her speed was comparable to a martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm, which was already very good. But now, seeing Ningyu's speed, she felt that her speed was too slow. Since her speed was not comparable to Ningyu's, the blue-robed woman simply stopped and coldly looked at Ningyu. Shua! Seeing the blue-robed woman stop, Ningyu also quickly controlled the phantom armor and stopped in front of the blue-robed woman. Although he stopped, Ningyu's spirit was still highly concentrated. His eyes were firmly staring at the blue-robed woman. As long as she made the slightest movement, he would immediately escape. Didn't they say that this round would test my strongest battle strength? Why did a tigress come out? Cautiously staring at the blue-robed woman, Ningyu muttered. There was no essence chi in his sea of consciousness, and his soul attack spells were also restricted. So how could he test his strongest battle strength? After a brief complaint, Ningyu busily operated the third layer of the transformation spirit technique and quickly absorbed the essence chi inside the high-grade essence crystal. Kacha! Soon, a piece of high-grade essence crystal shattered, and the essence chi inside was completely absorbed. His essence chi absorption speed is so fast. Seeing the high-grade essence crystal shattered in front of Ningyu, the blue-robed woman's mouth slightly opened, revealing an incredible look. She was proud that her essence chi absorption speed was already fast enough. But who would have thought that Ningyu's absorption speed was even faster, more than twice as fast as her? In her opinion, Ningyu's essence chi absorption speed was enough to be compared with the freaks on the true martial battle list. What a freak! Rolling her eyes, the blue-robed woman completely gave up the idea of attacking. She wanted to see, after Ningyu completely replenished his essence chi, how strong would his battle strength be? Ka! 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 Time passed by minute, and with the passage of time, the essence chi in Ningyu's sea of consciousness was also increasing. 1 cyclone, 2 cyclones, 3 cyclones, 6 cyclones. A few hours later, Ningyu stood up abruptly, and his eyes shone brightly. At this moment, he had completely replenished the vitality that he had consumed. He was now in peak condition. I've been waiting for you for a long time. The moment Ningyu stood up, the blue-clothed woman took a step forward. A vigorous wave of yuan qi shot out from her body and attacked Ningyu's face. Facing this powerful yuan qi wave, Ningyu's lips curled up. With a wave of his hand, an equally powerful yuan qi wave struck out and collided with the blue-clothed woman's yuan qi wave. Qi! When the two yuan qi waves collided, there was no earth-shattering sound. There was only a crisp sound. This short exchange had caused the blue-clothed lady's expression to turn grave. Her impression of Ningyu had quietly changed at this moment. In her heart, she had already regarded Ningyu as an evenly matched opponent. With a flick of his wrist, the Absolute Soul sword appeared in his hand, and Ningyu asked in a low voice, "Will I be able to enter the 8th level if I defeat you?" The blue-clothed lady's eyes narrowed, and in the blink of an eye, she appeared in front of Ningyu and began to fight in close combat with Ningyu. The blue-clothed lady knew very well that Ningyu's speed was very fast. If they were to compete in speed, she would definitely not be able to catch up to Ningyu. There was only one way to defeat Ningyu, and that was to fight in close combat. Rely on reflexes and strength to defeat Ningyu. Close combat, ha! Sensing the blue-clothed lady's intention, the corners of Ningyu's mouth rose unnaturally, and a confident look appeared on his face. The reason why Ningyu was so confident was that close combat relied on reflexes and did not require much strength. According to his judgment, the blue-clothed lady's soul power was only at the early stage of Grade 4. She wanted to compete with his late-stage Grade 4 soul power in terms of reflexes. Dream on. Bang. At this moment, the blue-clothed lady had already arrived beside Ningyu and used her exquisite fist to punch Ningyu's chest. Haha, close combat, you not my. What? The blue-clothed lady smiled as her fist landed on Ningyu's chest. However, before she could finish her sentence, her expression changed drastically. This was because she realized that the Ningyu in front of her had actually dissipated. A shadow! The Ningyu that she thought she had hit was a shadow. Little lass, I'm here. In the next moment, Ningyu appeared behind the blue-clothed lady and said indifferently, Your speed is inferior to mine, and the strength of your soul power is also inferior to mine. Whether it's close combat or long-range combat, you're no match for me. Also, I've already asked you many times. Since you won't tell me, I can only defeat you. As soon as he finished speaking, Ningyu once again turned into a shadow and disappeared. Not good. The moment Ningyu disappeared, the blue-clothed lady realized that something was wrong. She hurriedly displayed her late-stage Grade 4 soul power in an attempt to find Ningyu's location. However, just as she displayed her soul power, Ningyu appeared beside her and punched her shoulder with yuan qi pulsating on his fist. Uft! The enormous force on her shoulder caused the blue-clothed lady's expression to darken, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. It can't be? Didn't you say that you're just a shadow? Why are you spitting blood? Ningyu felt that it was a little inconceivable. Logically speaking, a shadow shouldn't spit blood. So how could the blue-clothed lady spit blood? Damn it! Who told you that shadows can't spit blood? Cursing in her heart, the blue-clothed lady angrily said, This is the blood essence that I left behind on the 6th floor of the ivory tower. Now that you've forced it out of your body, I'm going to tear you apart. Blood essence? Ningyu was stunned and faintly understood. No wonder when he was on the 6th floor he had to test his innate talent. It turned out that he wanted to leave his blood essence behind. Hua! However, now was not the time to think too much, because the blue-clothed lady's hands formed a seal and repeatedly blasted out several shadow palm prints. The power of each palm print is actually comparable to a martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm. Ningyu's expression turned solemn when he sensed the energy fluctuation coming from the illusory palm. Because the shadow palm prints blasted out by the blue-clothed lady, each of them was comparable to a powerful attack from a martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm. Teisho Kenpo. With a serious face, Ningyu waved the soul-breaking sword, and in an instant, several shocking sword rays appeared in the air. Go! As Ningyu bellowed, the several sword rays seemed to be guided and unavoidably collided with the shadow palm prints of the blue-clothed lady. Kacha! Kacha! Although the power of the blue-clothed lady's shadow palm prints was great, compared to Ningyu's Teisho Kenpo, it was much weaker, and in the blink of an eye it was blasted away. After the shadow palm prints were blasted away, the remaining Teisho Kenpo roared and blasted towards the blue-clothed lady. What? Supreme 9 Purities, Sword Art. You actually know the Supreme 9 Purities Sword Art. Are you also a member of the Supreme 9 Purities Temple? Chapter 171. You're from the Supreme 9 Purities Temple. Ningyu was shocked when he heard the woman in blue's words. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he saw the woman in blue being struck by the Teisho Kenpo and disappearing. Damn it! Not only did the disappearance of the woman in blue not make Ningyu happy, but it made him look extremely solemn. The woman in blue was most likely from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known about such an important cultivation technique like the Supreme Nine Purities sword art. Swoosh! At this moment, the white shadow that appeared on the first few floors once again appeared in front of Ningyu. Haha, congratulations on passing the 7th floor's test. After the white shadow appeared, it first congratulated Ningyu and then said, "According to your fight just now, the ivory tower has simulated your shadow and injected the blood essence you forced out on the 6th floor into the shadow. From now on, the next cultivator who comes to this floor will have the chance to draw your phantom body and fight with you." Furrowing his brows, Ningyu asked doubtfully, "Didn't my blood essence dissipate along with the shattering of the jade piece in the 6th floor? How did you get my blood essence?" "The jade was only used to test your innate talent. It didn't cause your blood essence to dissipate. On the contrary, your blood essence was preserved perfectly." The white shadow explained, "All the martial artists who passed the 7th floor had their blood essence preserved and injected into the shadow." Since the blood essence had been injected into the shadow, Ningyu didn't ask any more questions and asked, "In that case, can I enter the 8th floor?" "Of course, but I have to remind you that the 8th floor of the ivory tower isn't that easy to pass. In short, you can't go wrong being extremely careful." The white shadow's hands moved rhythmically in the air. After a while, a crack appeared in the void in front of him. As time passed, the crack grew larger and larger until it was big enough for a person to pass through. "Go in. Good luck." The white shadow pointed at the huge crack and said. However, there was something that the white shadow did not say out loud. "Good luck. I can guarantee that the test that fellow gave you will definitely be related to alchemy." Taking a deep breath, Ningyu did not hesitate and leaped into the crack. Buzz! After Ningyu entered the crack, it let out a buzzing sound and then closed up again. Whoosh! At the same time, the largest square in Ivory City was unusually quiet. This sort of silence was terrifying, and it could even be described as deathly silence. Voila! The deathly silence lasted for a full 3 minutes before it was broken by numerous exclamations. Someone actually made it to the 8th floor of the ivory tower. "Oh my God, I didn't expect to see a martial artist reach the 8th floor of the ivory tower in my lifetime. The last time someone made it to the 8th floor of the ivory tower was more than 10 years ago, right? This incident will definitely alert the royal family and Donwu College. I believe they will send someone here soon. This is an incident that will shake the entire Great Xia country. Numerous sects and forces will definitely try their best to recruit the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor. Do you think the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor is either Zhang, Hu, or Yangyu?" A martial artist at the innate stage suddenly said. Hearing the words of the martial artist at the innate stage, everyone in the square shifted their gaze to the high platform, because Zhang Zhe and Yang Kuan were there, and their eyes were fixed on the 8th floor of the ivory tower. Who the hell is this martial artist? Who is it? Zhang Zhe clenched his fists and looked extremely excited. According to the previous few floors, the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor could not be Yangyu. In other words, it was highly likely that it was between Zhang Hu and another martial artist. If the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor was Zhang Hu, then the Zhang family in Ivory City would completely rise. He might even be recruited into the Zhang family in the capital. However, if the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor was not Zhang Hu, then it would be a disaster for him. Yang Kuan, now can you tell me who is so capable to make it to the 8th floor of the ivory tower? Zhang Zhe rolled his eyes and said, "How could I possibly know?" Yang Kuan was also very shocked. He also did not know who the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor was. In his mind, there were two candidates. The first was Ningyu, and the second was Zhang Hu. However, he was more inclined to believe Ningyu. After all, he had witnessed Ningyu's strength. "You win," Zhang Zhe said coldly, forcibly suppressing his anger. Originally, he had planned to attack the city governor's mansion when Zhang, who came out of the ivory tower. Now, it seemed that he had to postpone this plan, because it would not be long before the martial artists from Danwu College and the royal family arrived at Ivory City. If he dared to cause trouble at this critical juncture, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, Zhang Ze could only suppress his anger and wave his hand to signal the martial artists who were hiding in the surroundings to retreat. Phew! Yang Kuan heaved a sigh of relief when he felt the powerful auras around him disappear. Yang Kuan was very clear that if the city governor's mansion and the Zhang family fought to the death, the city governor's mansion would definitely lose. At the very least, the city governor's mansion did not have the capital to go against the Zhang family. In terms of high-end combat strength, the city governor's mansion and the Zhang family both had half-step Yuan Dan realm martial artists. However, the city governor's mansion and the Zhang family were too weak in terms of core strength. Once the two sides fought, the city governor's mansion would not be able to hold out for long. When the royal family martial artists arrive, I must tell them about this, Yang Kuan said slowly as he stared at the 8th floor of the ivory tower. At the edge of the square, the martial artist in white looked at the ivory tower with a playful smile on his face. The 8th floor of the ivory tower. With this level of talent, even in the Ghost Talent Hall, it is enough to rank in the top 10. With an evil smile, the martial artist in white said softly, "If I am not wrong, the martial artist who entered the 8th floor must be the martial artist who killed Master Lung. Now I am looking forward to meeting him." What? Someone actually made it to the 8th floor of the ivory tower? Immediately send someone over. No matter what, we must recruit him into the Sacred Institute. In a spacious room in Danwu College, an elder suddenly stood up from his chair and said, "The Sacred Institute is currently lacking manpower. We must not let anyone else get to such a prodigy before us. Principal, who should we send?" A middle-aged man opposite the elder asked. "Who should we send? Is there a need to ask me about this? Since the Sacred Institute is lacking manpower, then send someone from the Sacred Institute." The elder was infuriated as he said, "Tell old man Dongfang that if he doesn't handle this matter properly, I will take care of him." At the same time, in a luxurious study room in the Great Xia Kingdom's royal family, someone made it to the 8th floor of the ivory tower. A middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s stood up and said to the elder beside him, "Ask the third prince to make a trip to Ivory City. We must recruit that martial artist into the royal family." Chapter 172. When Ning Yu came out from the crack, he found himself in a long, narrow, and dark tunnel. So this is the 8th floor of the ivory tower. Ning Yu walked into the tunnel after pondering for a while. As he went deeper, he found that the temperature in the tunnel was getting higher and higher. Bean-sized beads of sweat appeared on Ning Yu's forehead and continuously dripped down along his cheeks. Wiping the sweat off his face, Ning Yu stopped and frowned. Why is the temperature getting higher? Could it be? Whoosh! However, before Ning Yu could finish a sentence, he saw a dazzling blue flame coming out from the narrow tunnel and closing in on him. Oh no! Seeing the blue flame, Ning Yu's expression changed drastically. Without any time to think, he immediately stomped on the ground and retreated quickly. Although there was still some distance between him and the flame, Ning Yu could still feel the intense heat from the flame. It made his heart palpitate. The blue flame was extremely fast. It arrived in front of Ning Yu the moment he retreated. Hiss! Endless flames burned and collided with Ning Yu's yuan qi, producing a hissing sound. Damn it, it's corrosive. The temperature of the blue flame was extremely high, and it was corrosive. Ning Yu knew that the essence energy around him wouldn't last long. I must chase the flame away. With a cold expression, Ning Yu quickly took out the broken soul sword and slashed out several sword rays at the blue flame. However, the blue flame did not dissipate in the face of Ning use fierce sword rays. Instead, it became even hotter. Soul power come out. Feeling helpless, Ningyu could only use his late-stage, fourth-grade soul power to suppress the blue flame. Hiss! Just as Ningyu's powerful soul force was about to come into contact with the blue flame suddenly turned into a cold light, and under Ningyu's astonished gaze, it drilled into his brain. As soon as the blue flame entered Ningyu's mind, it seemed to be provoked and flew directly towards the cyclone of wind, thunder, and fire. It didn't take long for him to enter the whirlpool of wind, lightning, and fire. Then the blue flames and the wind, thunder, and fire started fighting in the cyclone. But very quickly the blue flames and the wind, thunder, and fire quieted down, each occupying half of the cyclone. They're actually fighting for Yuan Qi. Sensing the situation of the two flames in the cyclone, Ningyu was a little dumbfounded. It turned out that they both wanted to devour Yuan Qi to strengthen themselves. Since that was the case, Ningyu might as well go all the way. He injected all the Yuan Qi in the other 6 cyclones into the cyclones where the wind, thunder, and fire cyclones were. Today he wanted to see whether the blue flames or the wind, thunder, and fire would gain the upper hand. However, the wind, thunder, and fire cyclones seemed to have reached an agreement. Whoever entered would absorb the Yuan Qi, while the other one waited quietly. Coexist peacefully? Ningyu was dumbfounded again. He couldn't understand why the two flames that were fighting at the start could coexist peacefully now. Luckily, I managed to stabilize the blue flames. Although this situation wasn't what Ningyu wanted, he was already very satisfied. After all, the blue flames didn't continue to cause trouble. After about 2 hours, when the Yuan Qi in Ningyu's 3 cyclones was depleted, the blue flames and the wind, thunder, and fire stopped absorbing Yuan Qi. The wind, thunder, and fire have absorbed the Yuan Qi of 1 cyclone, while the blue flames have absorbed the Yuan Qi of 2 cyclones. Sensing the changes in the cyclone's Yuan Qi, Ningyu frowned slightly and muttered, "From this, the blue flames are at least twice as powerful as the wind, thunder, and fire cyclones." Since he had solved the problem of the blue flames, Ningyu collected his thoughts and continued to walk deeper into the tunnel. After walking for about a quarter of an hour, the area before him suddenly opened up. Roar! However, the next earth-shattering roar caused Ningyu's expression to change greatly. Isn't this 2F asterisk cat up? As he stared at the enormous creature that had let out the roar, Ningyu was somewhat dazed, completely unable to believe what he was seeing. In front of him was a giant lion. This lion was really too big. Standing in front of it, Ningyu was as small as a pocket-sized person. Most importantly, the powerful aura emitted from the lion's body caused Ningyu's heart to sink to the bottom. Yuan dance stage. The giant lion in front of him was covered in golden fur and constantly emitted pressure, indicating that it had already surpassed the peak of the true martial realm and reached the Yuan dance stage. Damn it! Cursing in his heart, Ningyu cautiously said, "We have no enmity between us. I will leave now." "If you leave now, it means that you have given up on the 8th floor of the ivory tower." A powerful voice came from the Golden Lion King's mouth. Hearing the Golden Lion King's words, Ningyu was slightly startled. Then, as if he had thought of something, his eyes widened and he said in disbelief, "The condition to pass the 8th floor of the ivory tower. Could it be that I have to defeat Senior?" "Humph. Defeat me? Do you have the ability to do so?" With a cold snort, the Golden Lion King said in a deep voice, "Since Old Bias told me, then I will not make things difficult for you. The test for this floor is very simple. Refine a true martial pill." Hearing this, Ningyu asked, "Senior, are you sure you only want to refine a true martial pill?" Although the true martial pill was extremely difficult to refine, with Ningyu's current soul strength and the experience from his previous life, it was not difficult to refine a true martial pill. If one could pass the 8th floor by refining a true martial pill, wouldn't it mean that many people would be able to pass this floor too? Is it that simple? The Golden Lion King raised his eyebrows and waved its front paws. Suddenly, Ning Yu's expression changed, because he realized that the blue flames in his chi whirlpool had become violent. Swoosh! Not long after, the blue flames came out of his chi whirlpool and floated in the air. Whoosh! 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 Then the Golden Lion King opened its mouth and spat out a few streams of blue flames, floating in the air. Then the blue flames in the air slowly merged together under Ning Yu's astonished gaze. Looking at the flames that had merged together in the air, Ning Yu's mouth was slightly open. He was in disbelief. Gulp! Swallowing his saliva, Ning Yu said in a deep voice, "It's the indigo spiritual fire, ranked 280th on the mystical fire ranking. This floor is very simple. Use the indigo spiritual fire to refine the true martial pill. No other flames are allowed." Saying this, the Golden Lion King flicked its ear and threw out a bag of medicinal ingredients. On top of that, the indigo spiritual fire in the air also flew to Ning Yu and floated above his head. Hearing the Golden Lion King's words, Ning Yu was completely dumbfounded. His face was filled with utter confusion. The indigo spiritual fire was a mystical fire, ranked 280th on the mystical fire ranking. But that was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that the Golden Lion King had refined the mystical fire. Chapter 173. Senior, the azure spiritual fire has already been refined by you. How can I use it to refine the true martial pill? Although Ning Yu knew that the Golden Lion King was powerful, this stage was a little unrealistic for him. He braced himself and said, "This is too difficult." Difficult? Didn't you say it was easy just now? Why are you saying it's difficult now? Curling his lips, the Golden Lion King said lightly, "Don't bullshit with me. 2 hours. I will come and take a look in 2 hours. If you can't make the true martial Dan by then, get the hell out of here." Whoosh! After saying that, the Golden Lion King's huge body flashed and disappeared. However, the moment the Golden Lion King disappeared, a voice appeared next to Ning Yu's ears. "I will leave the azure spiritual fire here. If you have the ability to erase my soul imprint, then the azure spiritual fire is yours." Whoosh! Hearing the voice, Ning Yu's eyes narrowed and he said in surprise, "Are you serious?" "Yes, but it depends on whether you have the ability or not." The Golden Lion King's voice appeared in the air. "Remember, you only have 2 hours." Buzz! After the Golden Lion King disappeared, it quickly appeared in another hidden space. If Ning Yu was here, he would be shocked because there was an old man sitting in front of the Golden Lion King. It was none other than the White Shadow. Seeing the Golden Lion King, the white illusory figure smiled and said, "Golden Lion, aren't you afraid of failing miserably? Ning Yu might really snatch away your azure spirit fire." Late stage Sciention Realm. Late stage 4th rank soul force. How can he erase the soul imprint I left in the azure spiritual fire? The Golden Lion King sat on the chair and said in disdain, "I'm not bragging, but even a Yuan Dan realm warrior might not be able to erase the soul imprint in the azure spiritual fire." To tell you the truth, Ning Yu is not simple. The White Shadow clearly wanted to remind the Golden Lion King and said, "On the 5th floor he defeated a genius from the Corpse Sex Ghost Talent Palace. Moreover, he used the Corpse Sex Dark Gold Spirit Corpse." Dark Gold Spirit Corpse? Could it be that Ning Yu is also a member of the Corpsine sect? The Golden Lion King raised his brow and suddenly stood up. His expression became gloomy and he said, "If he really is someone from the Corpse sect, then we can't let him live." The White Shadow said, "Don't be impulsive. Ning Yu is not a member of the Corpse sect. He just has some trump cards. Old White, do you think that Ning Yu can use my blue spirit fire to refine a true martial Dan?" Golden Lion King frowned. Whether or not he can refine the true martial Dan, I don't know. It depends on his own luck. The White Shadow smiled and said, I'm just reminding you that you can't go back on your word if you fail miserably. Humph! When have I, the Golden Lion King, ever gone back on my word? The Golden Lion King coldly snorted and said fiercely, as long as he has the ability, so what if I give him the blue spirit fire? Poochie! At the same time, on the 8th floor of the ivory tower, looking at the blue spirit fire floating above his head, Ningyu frowned and was thinking of a solution. Just now, he tried to separate a bit of his soul force to approach the blue spirit fire. However, as soon as his soul force got close to the blue spirit fire, it was burned and dissipated. If I'm not wrong, the Golden Lion King's soul force has reached the late phase of the 5th grade. The soul imprint he left in the blue spirit fire has also reached the middle phase of the 5th grade. After taking a deep breath, Ningyu mumbled, I can only use the Netherworld Samsara Palm's 4th palm strike. Underworld Tyrant Palm. The Netherworld Samsara Palm was a palm technique that attacked the soul and was extremely powerful. Under normal circumstances, with Ningyu's soul force at the late phase of the 4th grade, it was impossible for him to enter the blue spirit fire. However, the Underworld Tyrant Palm was different. Ningyu could envelop his soul force in the Underworld Tyrant Palm and hide the aura of his soul force. Underworld Tyrant Palm. Ningyu did it immediately. His wrist quickly formed a seal, and a palm print that wasn't considered big was formed and floated above his wrist. Hiss! In the next moment, Ningyu released all the soul force in his body and drilled into the Underworld Tyrant Palm. Go! As Ningyu shouted, the Underworld Tyrant Palm was guided and attacked the blue spirit fire quickly. Poochie! Feeling the Underworld Tyrant Palm approaching, the blue spirit fire immediately wanted to resist. 2/3 of its soul force surged out, hoping to block the attack of the Underworld Tyrant Palm. Now's the time! When the Golden Lion King's soul force surged out of the blue spirit fire, Ningyu reacted quickly and took out the soul-breaking sword. With a stab, the sword landed right on the Golden Lion King's soul force. Buzz! The soul-breaking sword was a heaven-ranked, devouring flying sword. It could even devour Master Lung's 6th grade soul force, let alone the Golden Lion King's 5th grade soul force. In an instant, the Golden Lion King's soul force was completely devoured by the soul-breaking sword. Underworld Tyrant Palm, go in! After his attack succeeded, Ningyu didn't stay idle. Instead, he controlled the Underworld Tyrant Palm and drilled into the blue spirit fire. After the Underworld Tyrant Palm entered the blue spirit fire, it exploded. Vigorous soul force surged out and enveloped a ball of golden soul force from all directions. Senior Golden Lion King, I'm sorry. After pausing for a while, Ningyu clenched his teeth and surged his soul force into the soul force crazily. Since 2/3 of the soul force in the soul force had been devoured by the soul-breaking sword, the remaining 1/3 did not last for long before it was completely destroyed by Ningyu. Soul force imprint. Ningyu focused his eyes and separated a part of his soul force to imprint a soul force in the blue spirit fire. Uft! After Ningyu imprinted the soul force, the Golden Lion King suddenly stood up from the chair in the secret space. He felt something sweet in his throat and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. What? This is impossible. The Golden Lion King couldn't care less about the blood at the corner of his mouth. He was shocked and said, This is impossible. How is this possible? This is absolutely impossible. Golden Lion, could it be that Ningyu really took away the blue spirit fire? Seeing the Golden Lion King's reaction, the White Shadow was shocked as well. Although he said that he thought highly of Ningyu, he didn't believe that Ningyu could control the blue spirit fire. One must know that the Golden Lion King's cultivation was at the beginning stage of the primal core stage, and his soul force was at the advanced stage of the 5th grade. Whether it was martial arts, cultivation, or soul force, the Golden Lion King absolutely crushed Ningyu. How could Ningyu take away the control of the blue spirit fire? Yes, the Golden Lion King took a deep breath. At this point, he had no choice but to accept this reality. The blue spirit fire that he was so proud of had been completely taken away by Ningyu. No, I went through so much trouble to obtain the blue spirit fire. I can't let Ningyu have it so easily. The Golden Lion King's face turned cold, and he flew towards the space where Ningyu was. Chapter 174. Whoosh! Since the Golden Lion King was worried about his indigo spiritual fire, he immediately appeared on the 8th floor of the tower. Where's Ningyu? However, when the Golden Lion King appeared on the 8th floor of the ivory tower, it had a terrible look on its face. He did not see Ningyu here. He unleashed his soul power, but he did not sense any aura of the indigo spiritual fire either. All of a sudden, the Golden Lion King seemed to have thought of something and exclaimed, "Don't tell me he has entered the 9th level." "That's possible," the White Shadow said. Oh no, this is too much." The Golden Lion King's face turned pale. It seemed that the White Shadow was right. He had failed miserably this time. The indigo spiritual fire was ranked 280th on the mystical fire leaderboard. It was a great helper for making pills. Without the indigo spiritual fire, his alchemy skills would drop by a few levels. Moreover, the 9th floor of the ivory tower was different from the lower floors. He could speak and come and go freely from the first 8 floors of the ivory tower to the lower floors. However, he was not even qualified to enter the 9th floor of the tower. What kind of freak is Ningyu? The Golden Lion King's face darkened. He had never thought that Ningyu would be able to refine the true martial pill so quickly. Even with his alchemy skills, it was impossible for him to refine the true martial pill in such a short time. Elder Bai, can you think of a way to communicate with the people on the 9th floor? The Golden Lion King asked Elder Bai for help after some thought. However, before he could finish his sentence, the White Shadow shook its head and said, "Golden Lion King, don't even think about it. I can't enter the 9th floor of the tower either." "You can't enter either?" The Golden Lion King had the urge to slap himself. Why did he have to play a prank on Ningyu? Now, even the indigo spiritual fire is gone. Meanwhile, on the 9th floor of the tower, Ningyu looked at an old man in a black robe in front of him. He opened his mouth, but could not say a word. The black-robed old man's aura was even more powerful than the Golden Lion King's. If the Golden Lion King was at the early stage of the primal core stage, then the black-robed elder would at least be at the late stage of the primal core stage. He had even reached the pinnacle of primal core. A moment later, the black-robed old man looked at Ningyu and frowned. "Late Xiantian realm, how did you pass through the 8th floor?" Hearing the black-robed elder's words, Ningyu hurriedly held the refined, real martial pill in his hand and told the black-robed elder what had happened on the 8th floor of the ivory tower. Nonsense. That stupid lion is really messing around. The black-robed old man released his aura and said coldly, "With your strength, even if I give you the token and let you challenge the Sky-Split Tower, you won't be able to pass the first 3 levels." Sky-Split Tower. Ningyu's complexion changed. He couldn't help but cry out. This was because in his past life he had heard of Sky-Split Tower. Sky-Split Tower was located in the central continent, where the geniuses of the Sky Demon region gathered. Rumor had it that Sky-Split Tower had a total of 33 floors. Since its establishment, very few people had been able to make it past the 30th floor. However, any martial artist who had made it past the 30th floor had become an all-powerful existence in the Sky Demon region. In his past life, Ningyu had also wanted to challenge Sky-Split Tower, but due to various reasons, he had missed the opening time of Sky-Split Tower. Now that he had the opportunity to enter Sky Split Tower in this life, Ningyu naturally didn't want to miss it. "Oh, you've heard of Sky Split Tower?" Seeing Ningyu's reaction, the black-robed old man raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "If that's the case, it seems that I don't need to say more. You don't want to enter Sky Split Tower. I'll send you away from the Ivory Tower. Sir, it seems that there are only 2 restrictions to enter Sky Split Tower. First, you must not be more than 30 years old. And second, your cultivation must not exceed the peak of the real martial realm." Ningyu asked, "I didn't expect you to know so much." The black-robed old man couldn't help but look at Ningyu and explained, "But those were the rules of 20 years ago. Now there is only one rule, and that is you must get a token in order to enter Sky Split Tower." AI. Subsequently, the black-robed old man sighed and said, "The current Sky Split Tower is no longer the Sky Split Tower of 20 years ago. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Sir, if I break through to the 9th floor of the Ivory Tower, can I get a token to enter Sky Split Tower?" Ningyu asked again. "Your strength is very weak. If I give you the token, it will be the same as sending you to your death." The black-robed old man said in a deep voice, "Sir, I want to give it a try. If there is any fear on the road of cultivation, I will definitely not go far on the road of martial arts." Ningyu cupped his fists and said, "Sir, please grant me my wish." "Boy, why don't you listen to my advice? Forget it. Since you want the token, I'll give you a chance." With that, the black-robed old man suddenly stamped his foot. The ground beside him suddenly sank, and a round pool emerged. The liquid in the pool was reddish-brown. Swish! After the pool emerged, the black-robed old man made a strange hand seal, and then a figure appeared in front of Ningyu. Xiantian Full Realm. Seeing the figure next to him, Ningyu's face changed slightly. It was not because the figure in front of him was a Xiantian Full Realm martial artist, but because of the powerful aura exuding from the martial artist in front of him, which was comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the real martial realm. Let me introduce, this is Su Wui, the martial artist who broke through to the 9th floor of the Ivory Tower last time. He is also the only martial artist who broke through to the 9th floor since the establishment of this tower. The black-robed old man pointed at the figure. Su Wui, the martial artist who occupied the first place on the innate realm battle list for 3 months. Ningyu said in surprise. Ningyu had heard from Yanyu that Su Wui was a freak. When he was at the early stage of the Xiantian realm, he had broken through to the 9th floor of the Ivory Tower. When he came out, his cultivation had reached the Xiantian Full Realm, and he was only a step away from the real martial realm. There was a rumor that not long after Su Wui left Ivory City, 3 martial artists at the peak of the real martial realm besieged him. As a result, the 3 martial artists at the peak of the real martial realm were all killed by his sword. From this, it could be seen how terrifying Su Wui's strength was at the Xiantian Full Realm. I'll give you a chance to defeat Su Wui. Of course, with your current strength, defeating Su Wui is just a pipe dream. The black-robed old man was very satisfied with Ningyu's reaction and continued, "The liquid in this pool is made from 91 kinds of medicinal herbs. It contains extremely powerful energy. You can cultivate in it for 3 days, and after 3 days, you can fight with Su Wui. As long as you can defeat Su Wui, I'll give you the token and let you go to the Sky Split Tower." "Hee, how about it? It's not too late to give up now." The black-robed old man concluded that Ningyu would definitely give up and laughed. However, Ningyu's next words made the black-robed old man's face turn a little ugly. "Senior, I want to give it a try." Chapter 175. You win. I'll come back in 3 days. I'll let Su Wui fight you then. Seeing Ningyu jump into the pool without any preparation, the black-robed elder's mouth twitched. He waved his hand and left with Shiwu-yi. Chi. As for Ningyu, he didn't think too much when he jumped into the pool. But after entering the pool, he felt his scalp go numb. Hiss! The reddish-brown liquid in the pool wrapped around Ningyu's skin. The feeling of being hot one moment and cold the next made Ningyu suck in a breath of cold air. The energy contained in this reddish-brown liquid is several levels higher than the intermittent cold jade fluid. Enduring the pain on his skin, Ningyu hurriedly used the spiritual transformation technique and began to slowly absorb the energy in the reddish-brown liquid. The intermittent cold jade fluid was a 6th-grade medicinal liquid. Its medicinal effects were equivalent to a 6th-grade medicinal pill. If Ningyu's guess was right, the reddish-brown liquid was at least a 7th-grade medicinal liquid. The energy contained in it was even more powerful than a 7th-grade medicinal pill. Absorb! Ningyu's soul surged as he circulated the spiritual transformation technique to the extreme. The powerful energy around him broke through the surface of his skin and slowly entered his body. Wong wong! Ningyu had already cultivated the spirit transformation art to the 3rd level. The speed at which he absorbed primordial energy and energy was extremely fast. In just 10 minutes or so, he felt that the primordial energy in his sea of consciousness was bursting to the brim. He couldn't store any more. No, if this goes on, I'll definitely explode and die. Ningyu's face changed as he stopped circulating the spiritual transformation art. With a thought, he entered his consciousness and observed the 6 cyclones in it. Ningyu was really surprised by this observation, because he discovered that among the 6 cyclones, at least 3 of them seemed to be on the verge of exploding. The explosion of a cyclone was no laughing matter. It might even blow up Ningyu's sea of consciousness. Thus, Ningyu's face turned somewhat ugly to behold. Suddenly, Ningyu clenched his teeth and said fiercely, "Let's do it! The pool contains such a huge amount of energy. Why don't I take this opportunity to try splitting the cyclone?" Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He immediately calmed his mind and activated the spirit transformation art, controlling the energy into one of the cyclones. Moreover, Ningyu had also controlled the speed at which the energy entered the cyclone. It was neither too fast nor too slow. Kacha! About a quarter of an hour later, a cracking sound came from Ningyu's sea of consciousness. Faster! Hearing this cracking sound, Ningyu did not hesitate and immediately increased the speed at which he absorbed the energy. Ka-ka-ka-ka. As the speed at which the energy was being absorbed increased, a cracking sound could be heard. Pung! 2 hours later, a deep sound rang out. Then Ningyu's face lit up with joy. One of the cyclones has split into 2. At this moment, one cyclone in Ningyu's sea of consciousness had successfully split into 2. In other words, there were a total of 8 cyclones in his sea of consciousness. Ningyu did not let his guard down just because one cyclone had successfully split into 2. Instead, he carefully activated the spirit transformation art and controlled the energy to enter the other cyclone. After all, he had 3 days, so Ningyu did not panic at all. Everything proceeded in an orderly manner. Pung, 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 pung. As time passed, the sounds of the cyclones splitting in Ningyu's sea of consciousness continued to ring out. About 10 hours later, when the last dull sound rang out, Ningyu let out a long breath. All 6 cyclones have successfully split. Looking at the 12 cyclones in his sea of consciousness, Ningyu nodded his head in satisfaction. To be precise, there were a total of 13 cyclones in his sea of consciousness, including the cyclones of wind, thunder, fire, and azure spiritual fire. The maximum number of cyclones a Xiantian realm martial artist could split into was 16 cyclones. Now, when Ningyu was in the late stage of the Xiantian realm, he had already split the cyclones into 13 cyclones. Before advancing to the true martial realm, There was still a chance for him to continue splitting the cyclones. Let me see how much energy a cyclone can hold. His eyes narrowed. Ningyu operated the spirit transformation art to the extreme. The energy in his body followed the spirit transformation art and entered his sea of consciousness, finally flowing into the cyclones. Xiantian Great Completion. True Martial Realm Early Stage. True Martial Realm Early Stage. True Martial Realm Middle Stage. Half an hour later, Ningyu's eyes were wide open, his face filled with disbelief. True Martial Realm Middle Stage. The energy in my cyclones is actually comparable to a true martial realm middle stage martial artist. In fact, it was no wonder that Ningyu was shocked. The energy in one cyclone was equivalent to a true martial realm middle stage martial artist. 12 cyclones were equivalent to 12 true martial realm middle stage martial artists. To be precise, if Ningyu filled the cyclones with energy, his combat strength would at least be several times stronger than before. 11 more. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu no longer thought about it. Instead, he operated the spirit transformation art and began to replenish the energy in the remaining cyclones. Shua. 1 day later, Ningyu's eyes were filled with excitement, because at this moment he had filled all 12 cyclones with energy, reaching his peak state. Not enough. With my current state, it's impossible to defeat Su Wui. Although his strength had increased a lot, when he thought of Su Wui, the powerful existence who occupied the first place on the innate realm ranking for 3 months, Ningyu's face turned cold, and he said in a deep voice, Xiantian full cycle. I want to break through to the Xiantian full cycle. Ningyu knew that he had only cultivated for a short period of time. If he wanted to defeat Su Wui, there was only one way, and that was to advance to the Xiantian full cycle. Only by advancing to the Xiantian full cycle and increasing the Yuan Qi capacity in the cyclones would he have a chance to defeat Su Wui. However, the chance was not very big. In fact, Ningyu had just advanced to the Xiantian late phase not long ago. If it wasn't to defeat Su Wui, it would be impossible for him to break through to the Xiantian full cycle in such a short period of time. After all, the former first place on the innate realm ranking gave Ningyu a lot of pressure. Swoosh! Swoosh! At the same time, at the gate of Ivory City, 2 figures suddenly appeared. They were so fast that in the blink of an eye, they appeared above the square where the ivory tower was located and steadily landed on the high platform. Shua! Seeing these 2 figures, all the martial artists on the high platform, including Yang Kuin and Zhang Zhe, stood up. Not only that, everyone in the square also shifted their gaze to the high platform. More accurately, they shifted their gaze to the 2 figures that suddenly appeared on the high platform. Who are they? Why can't I feel a trace of Yuan Qi from them? I can't feel it either. However, I'm sure that they are not ordinary people. I know that too. Look at Zhang Zhe and Yang Kuin. They are standing on the same spot, and they don't even dare to breathe. Their foreheads are even sweating. Could it be that they are also here for the martial artist in the ivory tower? Chapter 176. Do you know who the martial artist on the 8th floor of the ivory tower is? One of the 2 figures was an old man, and the other was a middle-aged man in his 40s. The old man glanced at the ivory tower, then turned to Yang Kuin and said in a deep voice, To be able to enter the 8th floor of the ivory tower, you have reached the standard of the Sacred Institute. You can enter the Sacred Institute as an exception. Sacred Institute, you are from Danwu College. Hearing the old man's words, Yang Kuin was first stunned. Following that, he revealed an astonished expression as he exclaimed, I know. You guys are here to recruit the genius martial artists from the ivory tower into the Danwu Academy's sacred institution. Sigh. Actually, I don't know who the martial artist on the 8th floor of the ivory tower is. Then Yang Kuin sighed and said, Among the martial artists who entered the ivory tower this time, the one who has the highest chance of entering the 8th floor is Zhang, who from the Zhang family. After knowing that the old man and the middle-aged man were from Danmu College, Yang Kuin did not dare to slight them at all and maintained a respectful expression. After all, Danmu College was a huge force in the Great Xia Kingdom. Even the royal family had to show some respect to them, not to mention he was just the governor of a small ivory city. Zhang Hu? The old man raised his eyebrows and said, I don't care if he is Zhang Hu or Yang Hu, he is already a member of the Sacred Institute. Ha ha ha! When did the vice dean of the Sacred Institute become so domineering? However, before the old man finished his words, a loud laughter rang out. After that, a figure tore through the void and appeared, descending on the high platform. Whoosh! Whoosh! After this figure appeared, another 2 figures appeared and leaped onto the high platform. Third Prince. On the high platform, Yang Kuin hurriedly took a step forward and cupped his fists. I didn't know the 3rd Prince was coming. Please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. It's okay. I was also ordered to come here in the face of danger. It's not a crime to be ignorant. The 3rd Prince was about 25 years old. He held a folding fan in his hand and wore a smile on his face, looking like a pale scholar. Haha, I was wondering who it was. So it's 3rd Brother Mu. The old man from the Sacred Institute was slightly stunned when he saw this figure appear abruptly, and then he smiled and said, What? You intend to fight for this genius with my Danmu College as well. Unfortunately, this genius is already a member of our Sacred Academy. You can return now. Old Ghost Fong, don't play this game with me. Waving his hand, Old Mu said indifferently, Your Sacred Institute lacks people. So does the Imperial family. In another year, it will be the Royal Clan Contest on the Mystic Moon Continent. If the Great Xia Kingdom's royal clan isn't able to distinguish themselves, the consequences will be unimaginable. The Xian Yu continent's royal family battle was a grand event for the various empires. In the battle, each country could send 5 to 10 cultivators to participate. There was a wager for the battle for the throne. The lowest wager was a city the size of Ivory City. Previously, the Great Xia Kingdom had suffered a crushing defeat in the battle for the royal clan. They had lost more than a dozen cities. If they were to lose so many cities again, the Great Xia Kingdom might be demoted to a kingdom and leave the ranks of empires. Of course, not everyone could represent the royal family to participate in the contest. 3 conditions had to be met. First, the age couldn't be more than 30 years old. Second, the martial arts cultivation couldn't be lower than the true martial realm. Third, and most importantly, he must be a member of the royal clan. Old Mu, are you sure the martial artist in Ivory City is a member of the royal clan? Fang Yuanzi asked. It's easy to make him a member of the royal clan. There are many princesses in the royal clan. Just marry one to him. Mu Sanming laughed. Besides, the Sacred Institute already has a peerless genius like Zhang Tianwen. Shouldn't this martial artist be given to us? Give him to you? Dream on. Fang Yuanzi said, coldly, in another 6 months, it will be the 100 Academy tournament of the Mystic Moon Continent. Although Zhang Tianwen is strong, the Sacred Institute is relatively weak. If we can recruit this genius martial artist into the Sacred Institute and train him for half a year, he will definitely be able to occupy a place on the true martial ranking. Swish, 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 swish. Just as Fang Yuanzi and Mu Sanming were arguing for Ningyu, a few more figures appeared in the sky above the square. After a while, they landed on the high platform. Then, several figures appeared on both sides of the high platform. Obviously, they belonged to 2 factions. Xiao Chong, if I'm not wrong, the drunken cloud villa should be in a mess now, right? Why do you have the time to stroll around here? One of the middle-aged men said with a sinister smile. It was obvious that the 2 factions that appeared were not on good terms. I heard that not long after Zhang Wenyong's death, Zhang Jin, who went to investigate, also died tragically in Tianjin City. Why doesn't the dignified head of the Zhang family investigate the cause of their deaths? Why does he have time to come here to join in the fun? Xiao Chong curled his lips and said lightly, "Swish, swish." Hearing this, Zhang Jun's expression changed. He was just about to say something, but he stopped abruptly because another two figures emerged from the entrance of the square and quickly flew onto the high platform. Little girl. Seeing the figure, Fang Yuanzi was slightly startled and immediately said, "The daughter of the current pavilion master of Shuiyu Pavilion, Lu Wei. Danwu College's assessment should be coming to the last round. Why are you here instead of participating in the assessment?" Elder Fang. Lu Wei clasped her hands at Fang Yuanzi and said, "I'm not here to join in the fun. I'm just passing by." Actually, Lu Wei had missed the final assessment of Danwu College, this time mainly to look for Ningyu. To be more precise, she wanted to ask Ningyu to find his master. Her father and the others had worked together to refine the elixir of life and death. Now that they were at a critical juncture, a huge problem had arisen. This problem could only be solved by an alchemist with a level 8 soul power. At this critical juncture, Lu Wei could not be bothered to participate in Danwu College's assessment anymore. She immediately set off for Tianjin City. Unfortunately, in Tianjin City, Lu Wei could not find Ningyu. Just as she was about to return to the capital dejectedly, she met the Emperor of the Dark World on her way. The Emperor of the Dark World told Lu Wei that Ningyu was in the Ivory Tower at this time. If she wanted to find Ningyu, she had to wait at the central square of Ivory City. Therefore, Lu Wei rushed to Ivory City without stopping and happened to encounter the gathering of so many powerful martial artists. What could it be? Shifting her gaze to the ivory fighting platform, Lu Wei opened her mouth slightly when she saw the continuous light on the 8th floor. She was shocked and whispered, "He made it to the 8th floor of the Ivory Tower? Who? Little girl, do you know the martial artist on the 8th floor? Tell me who he is. Tell me who that martial artist is. How do you know that genius martial artist? What's his name? Where is his home? Who are his family members?" Although Lu Wei's voice was very low, who were the people around her? All of them were the top martial artists in the great Xia Kingdom. Naturally, they heard Lu Wei's whisper. Chapter 177. Surrounded by so many powerhouses, Lu Wei was stunned for a moment. She opened her mouth slightly and couldn't say a word for a long time. She did come here to look for Ningyu, but she didn't know whether the martial artist on the 8th floor was Ningyu or not. It was just a guess. Moreover, even if the martial artist on the 8th floor was Ningyu, she wouldn't say it out loud. "I don't know who the martial artist inside is." Lu Wei shook her head and said, "After all, I just arrived here. How could I know who is inside?" "Forget it. We won't make things difficult for you." Hearing Lu Wei's words, Fang Yuanzi raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "If that's the case, let's wait until the genius martial artist comes out from the Ivory Tower. Then everything will be clear." "All right." Mu Sanming nodded and found a chair to sit on. Beside him, the third prince stood respectfully. Zhang Jun came to Zhang Zhe and whispered a few words to him. Then he sat on a chair and closed his eyes slowly. As for Xiao Chong, he found a chair on the high platform and sat down. He closed his eyes and rested. The high platform, which was bustling with noise just a moment ago, suddenly became a little quiet. Since the 4 powerhouses didn't speak, the others on the high platform naturally didn't dare to speak. No one on the high platform made a sound, so the whole square became abnormally quiet, so quiet that it was a little scary. Whoosh! Ning, you didn't know about the silence in the square. At this time he was staying in the pool, and the energy around him entered his body through his skin, and then crazily entered his consciousness. See? Damn it! Just a little bit more. Feeling the changes in the chi whirlpool in his consciousness sea, Ningyu gritted his teeth and poured out all his soul power. He kept suppressing the energy in the pool and forcing it into his consciousness sea. Bang! A few hours later, a pleasant voice resounded in this space. Ningyu's eyes opened wide when he heard this, and wild joy appeared on his face. Crack! Following that, another cracking sound rang out. Looking at the changes in the chi whirlpool in his consciousness sea, Ningyu directly jumped out of the pool. Complete innate realm. The chi whirlpool in his knowledge sea had expanded by several times. This indicated that Ningyu had successfully broken through the Xiantian late stage and had reached the consummate stage of the Xiantian realm. Now, the amount of yuan qi contained in each cyclone should be comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the middle stage of the true martial realm. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu did not stay at the edge of the pool for too long. He leaped into the pool once more and sank to the bottom. As Ningyu continued to sink, the energy around him was like a flood or a ferocious beast, crazily drilling into his body. Fortunately, after Ningyu had advanced to the peak of the innate realm, his body strength had increased a lot. Otherwise, with so much energy entering his body, it was very likely that his body would explode. Another few hours passed. By the end of the second day, Ningyu had filled all 12 cyclones. There is still 1 day left. I will use this last day to practice the supreme 9 purities, sword art. His figure flashed, and Ningyu arrived at the edge of the pool. Although he had advanced to the consummate stage of the Xiantian realm, and the number of cyclones had increased to 13, Ningyu still did not have much confidence in defeating Shui. If Ningyu's guess was right, the strength of this phantom body of Shui could easily defeat a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm, and could even contend with a martial artist at the half-step Yuan Dan realm. And his current comprehensive strength was at best comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm. Facing a martial artist at the half-step Yuan Dan realm, it was basically impossible for him to win. Therefore, he had to practice the supreme 9 purities sword art to the 4th form. Only then would he have a chance of defeating Shui. With a flick of his wrist, the soul-breaking sword appeared in Ningyu's hand. At this time, Ningyu's face was solemn because he only had 1 day to practice the 4th form of the supreme 9 purities sword art. The 4th form of the supreme 9 purities sword art was extremely difficult to practice. Even if he had advanced to the consummate stage of the Xiantian realm, he did not have absolute confidence that he could successfully practice it in a day. As long as I can cultivate it to the realm of initial success, it will be enough. According to Ningyu's speculation, there was hope for him to cultivate the 4th form of the supreme 9 purities sword art to the realm of initial success in a day. Swoosh! However, just as Ningyu was recalling the cultivation method of the 4th form of the supreme 9 purities sword art in his mind, a cold light suddenly swept out from his body and quickly entered the pool. A semicircular blue pendant. Although the cold light's speed was incomparably fast, Ningyu's superb perception still discovered its true form. It was the semicircular blue pendant that his father had given him. It can't be that it wants to absorb the energy in the pool, right? The moment the blue pendant entered the pool, Ningyu's expression changed slightly, and a bad feeling arose in his heart. If it was somewhere else, naturally, Ningyu would not think too much about it, and he would even help the blue pendant absorb the energy. However, it was different here, because this pool belonged to the black-robed old man. The black-robed old man only told him to cultivate in the pool for 3 days, but he did not say that he should use some kind of magic treasure to absorb the energy in the pool. Buzz! The next moment, a strong suction instantly erupted from the blue pendant, and in an instant, the remaining huge amount of energy in the pool was completely absorbed. The sudden change made Ningyu directly dumbfounded. He did not expect the blue pendant to have such a strong suction, and in just a few seconds, It actually absorbed all the energy in the pool. Crack, crack. After that, the blue pendant flew to float in front of Ningyu, and 2 cracking sounds came from it. What's going on? Is there something in it? Hearing the cracking sounds, Ningyu frowned. He wanted to use his soul power to check on the pendant, but felt that it was not advisable. After all, the pendant was a devouring pendant, and it could devour soul power. Ningyu was not a fool. He would not let his soul power be devoured by the pendant. Swoosh! At this moment, the blue pendant turned into a shadow and instantly drilled into Ningyu's sea of knowledge. Moreover, the blue pendant did not enter the other cyclones, but directly entered the cyclone where the wind, lightning, fire, and the indigo spiritual fire were. Pissed. However, what the blue pendant did next made Ningyu want to curse. This was because after the blue pendant entered the cyclone, it directly exploded with a strong suction force and swallowed the wind, lightning, fire into its body. F***CK. Ningyu could not help but curse, and his forehead was full of black lines. Although the wind, lightning, fire was not as precious as the indigo spiritual fire, it was still a rare flame. Just like that. No. Indigo spiritual fire. Thinking of this, Ningyu hurriedly controlled the indigo spiritual fire to fly out of the cyclone and wrapped it around his finger. Phew! After doing all that, Ningyu let out a long sigh of relief and thought that it was a close call. The indigo spiritual fire was a flame on the mysterious flames ranking. If it was devoured by the blue pendant, he would not even have tears to cry. After the blue pendant swallowed the wind, lightning, fire, it became obedient and quietly stayed in the cyclone and became silent. It's good enough that I can keep the indigo spiritual fire. Ningyu carefully controlled the indigo spiritual fire to fly into the air, and then recalled the 4th style of the supreme 9 pure sword skill, the 9 pure sword wave. Chapter 178. Swoosh! The sword ripple was as thick as Ningyu's waist. The boundless primordial chi that it contained even shocked Ningyu. Pa! Then, the sword ripple split into 2 and exploded in midair. The powerful aftershock even caused the air to be compressed and scattered in all directions. No, the power of the 9 clarity sword ripple can't be so weak. Ningyu frowned and fell into deep thought. Logically speaking, the power of the 4th style of the supreme 9 clarity sword art, the 9 clarity sword ripple, shouldn't be so weak. It was only slightly stronger than the Teisho Kenpo. The reason why the 9 clarity sword ripple contained boundless primordial chi was because Ningyu had advanced to the Xiantian full cycle. The primordial chi in his sea of consciousness was abundant, and there was a lot of primordial chi wrapped around the soul-breaking sword. Hence, there was a lot of primordial chi in the 9 clarity sword ripple. Recalling the cultivation method of the 9 clarity sword ripple, Ningyu waved the soul-breaking sword and slashed out several sword ripples. Pa! Pa! Several sword waves split into 2 in midair before exploding in an instant. Where did I go wrong? The 9 clarity sword ripple, as the name suggested, could split into 9 to deal a fatal blow to the enemy. Now that the sword ripple was only split into 2, it was obvious that his cultivation method was wrong. Ningyu could feel that if he continued to cultivate according to this method, even if he exhausted all the primordial chi in his sea of consciousness, he wouldn't be able to make any progress. Although Ningyu didn't have high hopes of splitting the sword ripple into 9 in a short period of time, he should at least be able to split the sword ripple into 4 within a day, right? That's right, I can use soul power. Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have thought of something, and his face lit up. Then, Ningyu separated a portion of his soul power to wrap around the soul-breaking sword. He then waved the soul-breaking sword again, and a sword ripple was formed instantly, piercing into the void. Buzz! This time, when the sword ripple reached midair, Ningyu moved his soul power and controlled the sword ripple to split it into 4. Pa 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 pa! Just as Ningyu split his soul force into 4 strands, the huge sword wave in the air also split into 4 sword waves with a swoosh. Moreover, the 4 sword waves exploded in the air. I see. If you want to cultivate the 9 clear sword wave to the large success stage, you'll need the help of your soul power. When he saw the sword wave split into 4, Ningyu revealed an overjoyed expression because he'd already found the method to cultivate the 9 clarity sword wave. After a brief moment of surprise, Ningyu waved the soul-breaking sword in his hand and continued to cultivate the 9 clear sword wave. Since he had found the cultivation method, Ningyu's cultivation speed increased significantly. 2 hours later, the sword wave split into 5. 6 hours later, the sword wave split into 7. 10 hours later, the sword wave split into 8. 14 hours later, the sword wave split into 9. Who? Looking at the sword wave that had split into 9, Ningyu let out a long sigh. He didn't even dare to believe his eyes. Originally, he thought that it would be very good if he could cultivate the 9 clear sword wave to the initial success stage before the 3-day time limit. Who would have thought that he had already cultivated the 9 clear supreme sword technique's 4th form, the 9 clear sword wave, successfully in 5 to 6 hours? Although Ningyu had cultivated the 9 clear sword wave to the large success stage, nothingness wasn't a pushover. Ningyu still didn't have much confidence in defeating nothingness. Therefore, he had to use the last 5 to 6 hours to adjust his condition and strive to face nothingness in his peak condition. Swoosh! Time flew, and 6 hours passed in the blink of an eye. Ningyu stood up with a swoosh and looked straight ahead with a solemn expression. This was because in front of him, nothingness stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes were shining brightly. Nothingness's current condition was very different from 3 days ago. The difference was huge. If one had to point out the difference, it would be that nothingness gave Ningyu the feeling that he had come alive. "Ha, Ningyu! I used these 3 days to repair Nihility's body," Ningyu said with a smile. The black-robed elder beside Nothingness smiled. Nothingness's current body's combat power is comparable to the number 1 martial artist on the innate realm battle list. Didn't Nothingness dominate the innate realm battle list for 3 months? Ningyu was taken aback. His combat power should be much stronger than the martial artists on the innate realm battle list. Could it be that the black-robed elder was kind enough to reduce Nothingness's strength? Thinking of this, Ningyu's fighting spirit rose. After all, the reduction of Nothingness's strength was good for him. However, the black-robed elder's next words made Ningyu want to vomit blood. Don't think too much. 3 days ago, Nothingness's strength wasn't that strong. That's because his body was formed from a drop of blood essence. The black-robed elder waved his hand. In other words, 3 days ago, Nothingness's combat power was only comparable to when he was on the 6th level of the Ivory Tower, and his current combat power is equivalent to when he was on the 9th level. That's why I said that he is comparable to the number 1 martial artist on the innate realm battle list. The black-robed elder continued, "If you think that his strength is too weak, I can restore his strength to the 10th level." Hearing the black-robed old man's words, Ningyu hurriedly waved his hand and said, No. What a joke. The 9th level of Nothingness was already comparable to the number 1 martial artist on the innate realm battle list. Once Nothingness was restored to the 10th level, Zhou Donghuang would have no chance of winning. Not bad. You advanced from the late stage to the peak of the Xiantian realm in 3 days. Your combat power has increased a lot. The black-robed elder nodded and walked towards the pool when he felt the aura from Ningyu. It seems that the medicinal liquid I brewed was of great help to you. After a while, the black-robed elder came to the side of the pool. However, his mouth was slightly agape and he was a little dumbfounded. This was because he realized that the liquid in the pool was unusually clear. It was so clear that he could see the bottom. What's going on? Where did all the energy go? The black-robed elder rubbed his eyes and looked at the pool again. He probed the pool with his perception. Ningyu! Suddenly, the black-robed elder shouted and turned to Ningyu. What the hell is going on? It was no wonder that the black-robed elder was shocked. The medicinal liquid in the pool had taken him a long time to brew. The energy contained in it was enormous. Even if he were to absorb it, he would need a long time to fully absorb it. But now there was nothing left. This, I don't know either. Looking at the black-robed elder's reaction, Ningyu made up his mind not to tell the truth. Based on the black-robed elder's reaction, Ningyu was sure that if he admitted it, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if nothingness didn't do anything, the black-robed elder would kill him himself. Senior, I jumped out of the pool after I advanced to the full foundation of the Xiantian realm. As for what happened in the pool, I don't know. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.